Hey guys, how are you all? Welcome back to my channel. Today we will see what if Naruto is neglected by his family and discover dark secrets about his old family. If you enjoy, then please like, share and do comments. Young Naruto Namikaze, a boy with vibrant red hair, one blue eye and one green eye, was wandering the streets of Konohagakure no Sato for the 1000th time. Whenever his family got him down, he would always walk under the moon at night. His family were, well, they neglected him. It started out small, forgetting to take him places, and paying more attention to his brother and sister, Menma and Nozomi. But after a while, they seemed to have completely forgotten about him, odd considering that he was the one they should be keeping their eye on the most. Naruto was the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi no Kitsune, a massive chakra beast of destruction in most people's eyes. To Naruto, he was the annoying sore loser. The fox was sleeping most of the time. I don't want to explain the Kyuubi attack again, so if you don't know what happened, look it up or read my other story's first chapters. The 8-year-old Naruto sighed as he stared up at the moon. When will I understand? Naruto was having a philosophical moment. He always felt out of place in the world, like he didn't belong. The only place he was comfortable was with his friends, Sakura, Tenten, Hinata, Ino, and Yakumo and Hirazan. Other people stayed away from him or beat him for his fuzzy affliction, but the other kids, except his friends, stayed away because he gave off a feeling of darkness and foreboding. He was also a quiet boy, he rarely ever spoke. The only reason he had the girls as friends was because they had seen him at his worst. A few years back, during a council meeting, the council members had to take their kids with them to introduce them to being a council head. The kids had ran off to play and had found Naruto on the Hokage Tower roof. He had, of course, been forgotten. They were about to leave before they noticed that he was crying. They had stayed and comforted him, seeing that he was kind despite the air he gave off. The six had been best friends from then on. Naruto was pulled out of his thoughts as he saw a few people start to follow him. He knew what was about to happen, so he bolted. Naruto ran through the streets, trying to lose the mob. Then, he turned the corner and slammed into someone. He stood up and tried to run off, but the person grabbed his shoulder and threw what felt like a cape over him. Where did he go? Naruto heard one of the villagers ask. Naruto gulped as his savior said in a young voice, "That kid? He ran off down that alley." Naruto heard them run off. When they were gone, the man took his cape off of Naruto, allowing the boy to see who he was. What Naruto saw was a handsome man in his early 20s with the same red hair as him and blue-green eyes. The man was wearing a suit and vest combo with a dark blue and gold cape over him, with large metal shoulder pads. He smiled down at Naruto and said, "Now that that's over, what are you doing out here all alone?" Naruto didn't know why, but he felt like he should trust this man. Like there was something connecting them, so Naruto told him everything. The man listened and stared down at Naruto for a few minutes before saying, "That's quite a tale. Oh, I almost forgot. My name is Sears X Lucifer. Nice to meet you." Naruto nodded and said simply, "Naruto." Sears X thought for a minute and said, "Say, would you come with me for a while?" Naruto nodded and suddenly, a circle of red energy appeared beneath them. Naruto was about to ask what was happening, but they were engulfed in a flash of light. Gremory family mansion. When it settled, they were inside a grand hall. Naruto thought they were in a castle of some sort. Sears X saw his look and said, "Teleportation circle. Very useful." Naruto nodded and noticed someone approaching them. She was an incredibly beautiful woman wearing a French-made outfit. She spoke in a cold voice, "Sears X-sama. Where have you been, and who is this?" Sears X scratched the back of his head and said, "Sorry Graphia-chan. I felt something interesting and went to find it. I'll still have to go back though. This is Naruto, I found him in Konoha." Sears X then changed from his carefree personality into a more serious one. "I need to speak with mother and father, where are they?" Seeing his change in attitude, Graphia said, "They're in the study, I will take you." On the way, Sears X explained what they were. Devils. Naruto had heard of them, of course, small things, but these two seemed very different than what he had heard. They explained the three factions, the Great War, the 72 pillars of the underworld, the evil pieces. Naruto absorbed everything like a sponge. He was fascinated with it all. When they reached the study, Naruto saw who could only be Sears X's parents, and a small girl about his age. They all looked over and saw him. The three seemed confused as they looked to Sears X for an explanation. He looked at them and explained how he met Naruto, the boy listening and wondering what this was all about. After a few minutes, Sirzex clapped his hands, back in his carefree mode, and said, "Well then, I think it's time to go and get Ryo-tan's evil pieces." The man, who Naruto learned was named Joseph, said, "But, Sirzex." The woman, Venelana, cut him off, "What about Naruto?" Sirzex said, "I'll explain when we get to Ajuka's lab." They all accepted that and loaded up into a carriage. The small girl, named Rias, started up a conversation with Naruto. "So, what do you like to do?" Naruto, startled by her friendliness, said, "I don't know. I like to take walks at night." Unnoticed to the two kids, all the adults shared a look. Someone they knew also liked to do that, and Naruto looked a lot like her. Ajuka Beelzebub's laboratory. When they arrived, they walked in. Naruto saw another man, dressed in a lab coat, walk up to him. He took a look at them and said, "I assume you're here for Rias' evil pieces?" He had noticed Naruto, but thought that they would introduce him eventually. After introducing Naruto and getting Rias her evil pieces, Sirzex spoke up, "Now, about Naruto here." Everyone started paying them attention. "Naruto, may I take a sample of your blood?" Naruto was confused, but he complied. Ajuka also took a sample from Sirzex, then he obviously knew what Sirzex was getting at, as he used a spell on them. When he was done, a magic circle was imprinted onto a piece of paper. Ajuka looked at it, and his eyes widened imperceptibly. The adults all looked at it, and they were all surprised as well, except Sirzex. He just narrowed his eyes. Rias and Naruto didn't understand it, so they just stood there clueless. Ajuka then spoke up, "Well Naruto, you're a Gremory." Naruto's eyes widened as he suddenly became the center of attention. "What?" After a few minutes they had composed themselves and started talking. Naruto was still trying to come to terms with the fact that he wasn't human. Venelana sat next to him and put her arm around his shoulder. "Naruto, we all know about your home life. How would you like to live with us?" Naruto thought about her offer. He had nothing with his old family, but "I can't leave my friends." Ajuka spoke up, "You don't have to. You can make them members of your peerage." Naruto nodded. He would have to ask them about that. Sirzex walked up to Naruto and said, "Naruto, how would you like to awaken your heritage and get your pieces now?" Everyone was surprised. That came out of nowhere. Naruto nodded again. Everyone was surprised at how easily he was accepting everything. So, Sirzex used a spell, and two devil wings popped out of Naruto's back, his power surfacing. He had easily as much as Rias, and it was still being released. Then, in a whirlwind of activity, Naruto was staring at his pieces in his new room. A red-orange chess set, with a mutated queen, bishop, and rook. Today was interesting. Tomorrow, he was going with Grafia to talk to his friends. They had agreed to meet the next day at an abandoned building. It was their place. Despite the building being condemned, it was still very sturdy and in good condition. Naruto lied down and closed his eyes, falling into a deep sleep at the exhausting day. Next day, Burning Leaf Luxury Inn, condemned, Konoha. Naruto and Grafia were sitting inside the inn. They had just explained what was happening to the girls, and they reacted as expected. "You're a devil. You can make other people devils. You're leaving the village. That pretty much sums it up," Naruto said. Grafia took this chance to explain some small details. "You should know that you don't have to come to the Gremory mansion. You're free to stay here until it's time to reveal Naruto's peerage. Also, becoming a devil won't change much." The girls took a minute to think, before Yakumo spoke up, "I'll do it." They all looked to her. "I heard my family talking about keeping me locked up. My ego is also getting stronger. This is the only way I can have a life." They all understood. Then Tenten spoke next, "Me too. I want a little excitement in my life." Hinata was next. "Oh okay. I have its F for you and Naruto-kun." Ino and Sakura looked at each other and nodded, "We'll do it too." They said. Naruto nodded and took out his pieces. Grafia nay, what pieces should I use? He wanted to get her help, since it was his first reincarnation. Grafia looked at the girls and said, "I would say, give Kurama-san the bishop, Higurashi-san the knight, and the others pawns. Kurama-san isn't suited for close combat. Higurashi-san will be a fantastic knight if she wishes to become a weapon mistress, and Haruno-san, Yamanaka-san, and Hyuga-san will make good pawns because they plan on having a wide array of skills." With the pawn's promotion, they could gain the necessary power boost for any situation. Naruto thought about it and nodded. He started with the pawns first. Oddly, it took 2 pawns each to reincarnate them. Graphia thought that it was because of them having chakra, unlike the regular, non-elemental nations, humans. He had to use his mutated bishop on Yakumo, due to her Ito trying to take over. Thankfully there were no problems with making Tenten his knight. Ino was stretching a bit. Wow, I feel great. Sakura took a few test punches. I didn't think that becoming a pawn would make me this powerful. Yakumo had her eyes closed and said, my Ito, it feels far away. I feel amazing. Naruto smiled. The friends then spent the next few hours playing together and making memories. When it came time for Naruto to return to the Gremory house, they shared a tearful goodbye and parted ways for a few years. 7 years later, on a bus. Naruto was sitting on a bus headed to his new school. Apparently, one-off Joseph Gigi's old friends needed help there, so Naruto was sent off to make an appearance. He had grown up well, he had coiled muscles that packed a lot of power, his hair was longer, reaching down his neck, Ichigo's hair while fighting Aizen, and he was now a tall 6 feet 2 inches. It was an eventful few years. He had learned where his devil blood came from, and boy was it a shocker. Anyway, even after 8 years, he had only added 2 new pieces to his peerage. He had found his queen and one of his rooks, and boy were they something. Island in the Caribbean. A 15-year-old girl with short blonde hair and blue-green eyes was relaxing on the sand with a yellow bikini. She was starting to get bored of her family's summer home. However, she held her boredom in. Soon she would get into all kinds of shenanigans as her king's rook. Lillian, it's time for your lesson. The now-named Lillian sighed and stood up. Her tutor was so annoying. Small city in Japan. A very buxom 15-year-old girl with flowing auburn hair and gray eyes was walking to school. As she was walking, she couldn't help but reflect on her weird life. She had become a devil when she was 12, and she would be eternally grateful to her king for all he had done for her. She hadn't even begun her duties as his queen, but she already had some supernatural experience. She couldn't wait for him to come get her. She only hoped her friends would understand why she'd been lying to them. Back on the bus, Naruto zoned back in as the bus headed through a tunnel. He had been told about this school, and that he might not even be going for a full semester. At least he might find some candidates for his peerage there. The bus stopped and Naruto stepped off to find a sign posted on a scarecrow, Yokai Academy, huh? Naruto shrugged his shoulders and started down the path to the school. He was mostly neutral about heading to school, but he could do without the uniform's color scheme. From what he understood about yokai, devils were seen as one of 2 things. Celebrities, or self-entitled assholes. There were a few exceptions, vampires and Yoko, for example, they generally saw devils as equals. Look out. Naruto turned to see a pink-haired girl on a bike headed straight for him. He stepped to the side, hooked his hand around her waist as she went by, and held her as the bike kept going. He let her down and she shook her head. Naruto took a second to look her over. She was stunning. She looked at him and gained a sheepish expression. Sorry about that. I got dizzy from my anemia. It's all right. My name is Naruto Gregory. Naruto said, using his cover name. She shook his hand and said, I'm Mocha Akashiya, it's nice to meet you. She replied with a bubbly attitude. Nice to meet you too. Are you a first year as well? She nodded, yep. Naruto noticed the rosario on her choker. You're a vampire? She stopped, then gained a sad expression. Yes. Do you hate vampires? Naruto blinked and said, I've never met one before, so no. She gained a smile that would make the sun jealous and said, that's great. Do you want to be friends? Naruto smiled at her, sure. When they got to the front gate, they split off, Mocha exploring, and Naruto heading to the headmaster's office. Nice ass, nice rack, nice face. Kit, take her. Naruto's eye twitched. Is that all you think about? What else do I have? Later, classroom. Naruto was sitting in class, thinking about his meeting. Apparently the headmaster needed someone to take down the disciplinary squad. Naruto decided to wait for a chance before moving against them. His teacher got up and decided to start the class. Welcome to Yokai Academy. I will be your homeroom teacher, Shizuka Nekonomiya. Here, you will all learn how to. Knock, knock. Shizuka looked to the door and said, come in. The door opened and Mocha stepped in. She walked up to the teacher and said, I'm sorry, I got lost after the entrance ceremony. Shizuka smiled at her and said, "That's alright, just introduce yourself." Mocha nodded and said to the class, "Hello. My name is Mocha Akashiya. It's nice to meet you all." Naruto listened as the boys devolved into horny monkeys. It was as bad as the girls when he walked in and sat down. Mocha also seemed uncomfortable as she looked around the classroom. She then spotted Naruto and her face lit up. "Naruto." She yelled as she jumped at him. She ended up in his lap with her arms around his neck. "We're in the same class. Isn't that great?" After she got done, she sat down behind him. Naruto was smiling at her enthusiasm until he noticed everyone making comments about either him or Mocha. Shizuka then decided to get everyone back on track. "As I was saying, here you will learn how to blend into human society." Then, one larger boy near Naruto said, "Hey sensei, wouldn't it be better to kill the humans, or have some fun with the girls?" Naruto narrowed his eyes at him. He decided to teach this kid a lesson after class. After class, Naruto was sitting with Mocha outside. They had the whole rest of the day to hang out. They were enjoying their time together until that ass, Saizo, showed up. He walked up to them with a grin and said, "Hello, you're Mocha Akashiya, right? What's a girl like you doing with a guy like this?" he said as he lifted Naruto up by his shirt collar. Naruto only grabbed Saizo's wrist and channeled a little energy. Saizo backed off as his wrist felt like it was being boiled from the inside out. Naruto landed on his feet and said, "Step off, asshole. I saw how you were looking at Mocha. If you get within 10 feet of her outside of class, then I'll send you home in a full body cast. Got it?" Saizo got up and growled as Naruto took Mocha's arm and led her away. After a few minutes, the two friends would up on the roof. Mocha looked over to her friend and said, "Thank you, Naruto. I don't know what I'd have done if you weren't there." Naruto wondered what she meant until his eyes landed on her Rosario. "Right, rosaries seal off a vampire's power." Mocha nodded. "Yep, I caused problems when I wasn't sealed, so I have this to suppress my makes me feel just like a human." At this, her face became downtrodden. Naruto noticed and asked, "What's wrong, Mocha?" She took a second before answering quietly, "I hate humans." Naruto was surprised, but he let her speak. "They would always make fun of me, and when I told them that I was a vampire, they all stayed away from me." Naruto stood there a minute before speaking. "I might have hated them too." Mocha looked surprised at this. "I was persecuted by them as well. I would constantly be glared at and insulted. Sometimes I would get beat up." Mocha was shocked at this, but I found a few that truly cared about me. They helped me through it. Humans naturally fear what they don't understand. But not all of them are bad. I truly love my friends. Mocha looked down at the ground and said, "See, could I meet them sometime?" Naruto looked over and smiled, of course. That night, Mocha was walking around at sunset, thinking about what Naruto had said. She had decided to give what he said a chance. She was about to head back to her dorm until Naruto jumped up from his training as he heard the scream. He was out in the woods honing his skills when he heard a girl scream that sounded like Mocha. Naruto sprinted for where the scream came from, not even minding that he left his shirt in the clearing. When he arrived, he saw Saizo, as a giant orc, pinning Mocha to a tree by a long tongue. Naruto's blood boiled as he let his wings free. He flew toward Saizo. He used a blade of pure magic to slice Saizo's tongue. Then he caught Mocha in a princess-style carry and flew up above the trees. He hovered there as Saizo roared in pain. Mocha looked up at him and said, "And Naruto?" "Wah." Naruto smiled at her and said, "Don't worry, Mocha-chan, just let me handle this." He then stopped and floated down to the ground. When he reached it, he turned to Mocha and said, "On second thought." He then grasped Mocha's Rosario and pulled it off with a small click. Mocha stared down at the chain in shock. It came off. She said before she was consumed in a pillar of black and red light. When it cleared, Mocha was standing with crimson eyes and shining silver hair. Also, her assets had grown a bit. She looked at Saizo, who was now shaking in fear. "Well," she spoke in a sensual tone, "if you won't make the first move." She then disappeared and reappeared beside Saizo, already going for a roundhouse kick. "Know your place." Naruto winced as Saizo was sent flying into the distance. Naruto then watched as Mocha walked toward him. She took the Rosario from him and said, "It's rare to see a devil out of the underworld." Naruto raised an eyebrow and said, "Yes. You did quite a number on Saizo." She smirked and replied, "He was weak. Unlike you. Naruto raised another eyebrow as Mocha looked him over like a piece of meat. She then placed the Rosario back on and said, "Take care of the other Mocha." She changed back to the pink-haired Mocha and Naruto picked her up. He then found her room key and flew her there. It took some doing, but he managed to get in through the window. After dropping her off, he then went back to his own room and went to sleep. He was going to have an interesting time at this school. A few weeks later, Naruto was walking down the path to school. He still had an hour until class started. It had been a quick few weeks. The classes were remarkably easy compared to what Venelon Aban put him through. Everyone thought that it was him who had defeated Saizo, probably because of his threat. He had also been challenged by a few guys. He had beat them without his devil powers. Another thing that was getting out of hand were the girls. Without knowing it, Naruto had become the most wanted boy on campus. Naruto-kun. Naruto turned around and saw Mocha running up to him. He stopped and let her catch up. Speaking of Mocha, she was surprised at his being a devil, but she accepted it easily enough. When she eventually caught up, they continued walking until they reached the gate. They split up. Mocha needed to go study, while Naruto wanted to scout out the disciplinary squad base. After watching the building for a while, he started walking back to class. On the way, he heard something. Please, someone help me." He looked over and saw a girl on the ground. He walked over to help her. As he got closer, he found that she was as beautiful as Mocha, though her chest could rival, if not beat, Ria's Queen Akino's. He helped her up and asked, "Are you okay?" She looked up at him and said, "Yes, thank you." She then leaned into him, pushing her breasts into his chest. "Sorry, I get weak sometimes." Naruto wasn't even fazed. "Thank you Akino, it's okay. I'm Naruto Gregory, would you like me to take you to the nurse?" She then looked into his eyes and said, "Kurumu Kurono, and I have a better idea." Naruto sensed the charm. He then dropped her. She stumbled a bit before regaining her balance. "What the?" Naruto walked off. "I don't like being charmed." She watched him go with a miffed expression. Naruto was walking away and thinking about the new player, Charm. Given her looks, she's most likely a succubus. They can be dangerous. I suppose I should thank Rias for practicing her charm on me, and Akeno for teasing me so much. With Mocha, later. Mocha was walking around the school looking for Naruto. He wasn't in class, so she was worried. As she was walking, she heard a voice. "So you're Mocha Akashiya, huh?" Mocha looked over to see Kurumu leaning against a tree with a smirk on her face. "You've been causing me a lot of trouble." Mocha was confused and said, "How? I don't even know you?" Kurumu sneered and said, "It's my plan to charm all the boys in this school. But most of them are so busy paying attention to you that they don't notice me. I've decided to start by stealing Naruto from you." Mocha then said, "What? But Naruto has nothing to do with this, and it's not my fault I have the guy's attention." Kurumu scoffed, "Yeah right, Naruto resisted my charm. The only way he could do that is if he was already charmed. You're a vampire, right? You could do it." It was at that moment that Naruto made an appearance. He walked in between them, catching them by surprise. "Mocha hasn't charmed me. I simply can't be charmed." Kurumu grit her teeth and started shaking. "Damn it. Damn it. Damn it." She then sprouted two purple bat-like wings, a long, spade tail, and her nails grew into long claws. Naruto watched as she flew into the sky and started circling them. "Mocha, let me." He then sprouted his own wings and ascended to Kurumu's altitude. As soon as he was up there, Kurumu flew at him, trying to slice him apart. "She's good. Just hold still so I can kill you." Kurumu yelled as she hovered in front of him and tried to stab him. Naruto was dodging her strikes and was about to retaliate until he noticed something. Kurumu was in tears. She looked on the verge of crying. Naruto caught her wrists and stared into her eyes. "Why are you crying?" Her eyes widened as she tried to pull away, but Naruto had her in his grip. "Let me help you." Kurumu eventually stopped and said, I can't do it." Naruto let her go. She leaned into him and put her hands and face on his chest. Naruto could feel her tears, but he let her continue. "I can't charm all these boys. I can't take their eyes staring at me. Back home, all the other girls tease me because I'm innocent for a succubus. I always get picked on because I'm still a virgin. I just can't take it. This was my last chance to prove that I can be a real succubus, and I failed." Naruto put his arms around her and said, "It doesn't matter, you shouldn't let them control you." She looked up at him. "Be yourself. I can tell that you're really an amazing person. You just need to let your fears go. Be who you want to be, not what everyone expects you to be. Kurumu looked at Naruto in awe. He was the first one except her mother to completely accept her. She placed her head back on his chest. As they slowly descended, she felt. For an instant, their heartbeats were in complete sync. In that moment, she felt it. Her entire being was in mind-numbing ecstasy. She felt lightning traveling throughout her body. For a split second, nothing else was real, just her and Naruto. It vanished as quickly as it came. Mocha was waiting for them on the ground. She had heard everything with her advanced hearing. When they got down, she spoke to Kurumu. I heard everything. If it means anything, I'd like to be friends. Kurumu, with great reluctance, separated from Naruto and smiled at Mocha. I'd like that. A few days later, with Naruto. Everyone's favorite redhead was currently walking toward the practice fields. The headmaster had told him about a teacher named Katsubo, who was reportedly taking advantage of students. As he arrived, he saw two things. 1. A girl with lavender hair, pale skin, and pale blue eyes was running toward the forest. 2. A man in a tracksuit, obviously Katsubo, was freezing two students in ice. Naruto sneaked up to Katsubo and pulled out a recorder. Perfect. Now all I have to do is frame Shiryuku and she'll fall right into my hands. She's so easy to manipulate. Naruto then left to find that girl. There was a good chance that she was the one Katsubo was after. After a few minutes, he saw her, staring out at the sea. He walked over and said, "Are you Shiryuki-san?" She looked at him, then nodded slowly. Naruto walked up to her and said, "I know this might be hard for you, but Katsubo is going to try and take advantage of you." She shot to her feet and took on her true form. Her hair turned to ice and her hands became ice claws. Yuki Onna. Interesting. Naruto sighed at her defensive attitude and took out the recorder. She listened to it, and as she did, Naruto saw her face twist into disbelief. She then went back to her human form and sunk to her knees. Naruto would have taken her to the school counselor, but he saw her eyes. She had the same eyes as he did before he met his friends. Naruto knelt down and said, "I used to have those eyes too." She looked up and seemed confused. "I used to be lonely too. It's hard, isn't it?" The crushing pain of not fitting in. Mizore was stunned. Someone understood her pain, but I found people who accepted me. "I know you can too. Why don't you come with me? I promise you that you'll have a place with us." Mizore stared into his eyes, looking for any hint of deception. When she found none, she nodded and he escorted her back to her room. 1 month later, Naruto was sitting on the roof with Mocha, Kurumu, and Mizore. The three had become great friends over the past month. Though Naruto was still preoccupied with figuring out how he was going to take care of the DS. All three of the girls knew that he was a devil and what his job was. "I have an idea." Mocha spoke up. "Nobody knows what you are, Naruto-kun. We could pretend that you're a human, then when they come to take you away, you pretend to break and mention that we knew. Then, once we're inside, we can go all out and take them down." Kurumu thought for a minute. That could work. "Nice job, Mocha." Mizore then decided to bring up a big point. "There's a problem. Naruto and Mocha are strong enough to take them down, but me and you are weaker than them. They'll have only the best there." Kurumu deflated a bit at this, but Naruto then spoke up. "I have an idea. But you'll need to really think about it." The girls looked at him and listened to his idea. Inside the DS headquarters, interrogation room. Naruto was sitting in a small cell with a blonde named Kuyu. The plan had gone off without a hitch and the girls were all in place. The plan was simple but elegant. Based on what they'd heard, Kuyu was the leader, and the strongest by a long shot. Naruto would fight him while the girls took out anyone else. Whoever got done first would back up the others. Naruto was pulled out of his thoughts by Kuyu speaking up. A human finding their way here is a serious offense. Naruto decided to rile Kuyu up and make him sloppy. "Then I guess you should get off your ass and start working." Kuyu bristled at this. "I will not take that from you." Naruto uncharacteristically smirked. "So who do you take it from, Mutt? You don't look like you could take a test without help." Kuyu snarled and pulled Naruto up in an attempt at intimidating him. Naruto just smirked back before saying, "The headmaster was right." The blonde was surprised as Naruto continued, "You are too dangerous and arrogant." Without warning, black energy exploded from Naruto's body, blasting Kuyu into a wall and destroying Naruto's restraints. With the girls, The two yokai guarding the girls were startled by the sudden burst of energy. They were so preoccupied that they didn't notice the girls get loose. They did notice, however, when Kurumu trapped one in an illusion of his worst nightmare. Mizore placed a white katana to the other's neck, and Mocha gave a savage grin and slammed his head into the ground. The door blasted open and the yokai outside the door in the main room were startled by the noise. What they saw was a pink-haired Mocha with no choker or rosario cracking her knuckles and grinning as her hair and eyes changed without any noticeable change in her demeanor. Kurumu with her wings out, tail swaying, and her nails on full display. Mizore handling a beautiful white katana with a white ribbon. Soda no Shirayuki Shikai. Although, one feature on the three girls caught their attention most. Devil wings. Mocha and Mizore had their own sets of devil wings, and Kurumu had her own set just below her succubus pair. Back with Naruto. Naruto watched Kuyu pull himself out of the wall, his power of destruction, pod, swirling around him and his wings stretching. Kuyu was now in his Yoko form, glaring at Naruto with hate. The redhead only stabbed back and said, "Allow me to reintroduce myself. My real name is Naruto Gremory, devil of the Gremory family." Kuyu snarled and said, "So what if you are a devil? I'll still turn you to ash." Naruto dodged the jets of fire that Kuyu was sending at him. He fired his own spheres of destruction at the fox, with Kuyu also dodging. Kuyu, however, was not stupid. He could see that while he was struggling, Naruto wasn't breaking a sweat. He decided not to play around and get serious. He switched into his hybrid form, a new blast of energy. Naruto narrowed his eyes. This was getting dangerous. If Kuyu continued, then he could injure innocent people. Naruto needed to end this quickly. He recognized Kuyu's type. Kuyu was just like Razor Phoenix, both arrogant and thinking that their natural skills would get them through all their battles. Naruto decided to knock the fox down a few pegs. He landed and started walking toward Kuyu with a straight face. Kuyu fired countless balls of blue fire at him, but Naruto's power swallowed it all. This is what was most dangerous about the power of destruction. It consumed all in its path. It was the true essence of destruction itself, and like true destruction, it couldn't be denied. Naruto eventually made it to Kuyu. He was on his last legs from expending all his energy trying to his Naruto. The devil held his hand away from Kuyu's chest by a few inches, Seishin o Kawasu Mano. He thrust his hand forward a small bit and Yuki shot from Kuyu like a fire hose. After it was done, Kuyu fell, unable to muster the energy to stay conscious. Naruto's technique took the pod to new levels. He had just destroyed Kuyu's energy. It was then that the girls showed up, looking only a bit tired. Naruto looked at them and said, "Well, that worked." Konoha. Venelana Gremory was walking through a street in the clan district of Konoha. She was there to see about Naruto's former family. She also had something to confirm. Right now, she was outside the Namikaze family home and had just knocked on the door. She waited and eventually someone answered the door. It was a girl in her early 20s with short black hair, black eyes, and was wearing a black kimono. She looked at Venelana and said, "Hello, can I help you?" Venelana smiled and said, "I'm looking for Kushina Uzumaki or Minato Namikaze. I need to speak with them." The girl said, "I'm sorry, but they're out getting groceries. My name is Shizune. I'm just watching the kids." "Oh, well then I guess I'll come back another time." Shizune said, "You can wait for them inside, they shouldn't be long." She didn't sense anything from this woman, so she should be harmless. Right? Oh, if only she knew. Venelana smiled. "Thank you. My name is Venelana, by the way." The two walked into the living room and saw two kids reading scrolls. One was a mini copy of Minato while the other was a blonde Kushina. The two looked up and saw their guest. Menma, ever so tactful, said, "Who's she?" Nozomi smacked him on the head and said, "Be nice, you idiot." Shizune then intervened, "Calm down, you two. She's here to talk to your parents." Venelana smiled and sat down on the couch. "It's nice to meet you. I'm Venelana Gremory." "So, it's just you two?" Shizune and the kids nodded, and Venelana thought, "Oh Naruto, you poor boy." Shizune then decided to start a conversation. "So, Venelana-san, do you have any children?" "Yes, I have 3 with a few grandkids about their age," she said, indicating Menma and Nozomi. The women were stunned, Nozomi more so. "What? You can't be a grandma." Venelana laughed a bit. Well, I am. So, they spent about a half hour talking, with the kids really starting to like Venelana. Then, Minato and Kushina came home and went straight to the kitchen. The kids ran in after them. Shizune walked over and said, "There you guys are, there's someone here to see you." Minato looked up and said, "Really? Who?" Venelana appeared in the doorway and said, "Me." "Hello Kushina-chan." Kushina froze as she heard that voice. She dropped the bowls she had gotten out for dinner and didn't even react as they shattered against the floor. Everyone looked over to her. Kushina was wide-eyed and slowly turning. She gasped upon seeing Venelana. She stood frozen. Venelana placed her hands on her hips and said, "Is that how you greet me after all these years?" Kushina could only whisper out one word, one that shocked everyone else, except Venelana, to the core. "Mother? Namikaze house. Mother?" Kushina said. Everyone else in the house was stunned. This woman was Kushina's mother. "Kushi-chan, is she really?" Minato asked. Looking at his wife, the kids and Shizune were also staring at her with confusion. Venelana looked at their surprised expressions and said, "You never told them? Not even your husband?" Kushina looked down at the ground, sighed, and reached back to move her hair. As she pulled it aside, it revealed a small seal. It looked like it was mixed with a magic circle. Kushina then placed 2 fingers on it and released it. The room was flooded with devil energy. Kushina's hair started to gain a small bit of the fullness that Rias and Venelana had, and she sprouted 2 devil wings. "What the hell?" Menma yelled. "What's going on?" Nozomi said, getting scared. Kushina looked at her kids and husband. She said, "I'm so sorry I never told you about this. I was just so afraid that you'd think I was a monster." Minato looked into her eyes and saw that she was still the woman he loved. He went over and wrapped her in a hug. The kids also went over and joined in the moment. It was then that Venelana decided to interrupt. "Now then, time to get down to business. Kushina-chan, you had best tell them why you left the underworld." Kushina nodded and led everyone back to the living room. Shizune however left to give the family some space. When they all got sat down, she explained that she was a devil, the middle child of the Gremory household. She also gave a bit of background, the grade was, 3 factions and all that good stuff. Then came the reason she fled the underworld. "It was a few weeks before I came to Konoha. The Devil High Council had decided to ensure that none of the old Satan faction could escape, so they decided to make me the jailer. My chains could suppress demonic energy, so they wanted me to stay down there for all eternity to guard them. Even if they let me out, it would only to become someone's trophy wife. I was scared. I didn't want to stay down in the dark, never getting to see the light of day again. I wanted to live, to fall in love, to see the world. So, I ran away. A few days after, I ran into some Uzumaki traveling around. I told them my story and they let me use their name. I was so scared of being found that I got a seal to suppress my devil nature, and it made me subconsciously avoid anything devil-related. After Uzu was destroyed, I came here." Venelana nodded. "That also explains how you treated Naruto." Kushina's head snapped up at this. "Naruto. Oh Kami Naru-chan." Kushina then jumped up from the couch and bolted for the door. She would have made it, if not for Venelana stopping her with a wall of pod. "What the fuck mom? I need to find my baby." Venelana only pointed to Kushina's seat. "Naru-chan is safe. He's with us." Kushina sat down as Minato, Nozomi, and Menma's eyes widened as they remembered him. Nozomi shared her mother's sentiments. "How could we have forgotten Ni-chan? I think I know." Everyone looked to the brunette as she explained, "Through simple genetics, Naruto was born more devil than human, so Kushina's seal would have caused her to avoid him. As for you Minato, Menma, and Nozomi, chakra was originally exclusive to the Shinju, a primordial being. So chakra is in a sense, divine in nature. Naruto gave off a bad vibe because his chakra and devil energy were fighting for control. Then you add in that he didn't even know what was going on and he was never trained. The divine energy of chakra reacted to Naruto's devil energy and projected the same kind of aura you feel when something very bad is about to happen. The chakra and others, including yourselves, picked up on this and caused you to steer clear." Everyone took this in. Then Kushina asked her mother, "Can we see him? Please." Venelana sighed and said, "I will talk to him about this, but don't expect him to come running right back." Minato nodded and said, "Thank you, so much." Menma was next. This was a weird day. Nozomi walked right up and hugged Venelana. "You're the best grandma ever." Then Alana smiled at her and spent another hour there before going home. Yokai Academy, School Festival. Naruto was walking through the lanes of stalls and thinking about the future and his new pieces. After the festival, they would be picking up Naruto's other pieces and going on a peerage vacation. Ino, Sakura, Hinata, Yakumo, and Tenten were going to go on a camping trip and use their teleportation circles to join him and the others. Just in case, Yakumo would also be putting up a strong genjutsu. Also, they had learned something interesting about Mocha. Turns out, that turning her into his rook shattered the Rosario's spell and fused her back together. Apparently the Rosario split her in two, locking one half away, and keeping the other free. Now that the Rosario was destroyed, she would be back to her original self. Mizore was also ecstatic to discover that becoming a devil had extended her fertility period from a few years to a few centuries, so she wouldn't have to worry about being in an arranged marriage. Naruto was also preparing himself for meeting the girl's parents. It wasn't so much Mizore's and Kurumu's mothers that scared him, it was Mocha's father. Though he had the feeling of impending doom telling him to be much more afraid of Mizore's and Kurumu's moms. He had also gotten some things from his grandfather, like a scroll on magic for Kurumu, a battle kimono for Mizore, and a martial arts scroll for Mocha. They had been learning and training hard, and Naruto was really impressed. As he was walking, he only sensed the missile headed for him just as it was about to hit him, Narukoi. Oh yes, one thing he had forgotten to mention, Kurumu found out that he was her destined one. She had reacted to him when he held her after they fought. He knew that as a high-class devil, that he could have more than one wife or concubine. He had told the girls as much, and they had seemed to accept it. "Hello Kurumu-chan," Naruto said as she hooked her legs around his waist. "My mother is so happy to get to meet you. She, Mizore, and her mother are all in the cafeteria, so onward," Kurumu said, pointing dramatically. Naruto sighed and started walking. When he arrived at the cafeteria, he saw not what he was expecting. He saw what looked to be older versions of Mizore and Kurumu arguing about who was the better girl in school. Mizore noticed him and walked over. "They've been like this for a few minutes. Should we stop them?" Naruto set Kurumu down and asked, "Have you told them about you being devils? Or that I'm one?" The two girls sheepishly shook their heads. Naruto sighed as they watched the two women argue about everything from fashion to test scores. They eventually stopped to notice that their daughters were standing there with a very handsome boy. "Well, hello there, Tilda," Kurumu's mother purred. "I'm Agaya Kurono. Nice to meet you, handsome. My name is Surara Shirayuki, it's so nice to finally meet you." Naruto smiled and said, "Naruto Gremory, nice to meet you." The two women smiled back until they realized what he said. Surara spoke first. Did you say G Gremory?" Naruto nodded and Mizore and Kurumu showed their new wings. Needless to say, the women were shocked, but after they explained how the girls became devils and that they were completely fine, the two mothers calmed down. With Mocha, everyone's favorite vampire was currently standing nervously as a black limousine pulled up in front of her. The door opened and the first thing that she heard was, "Dai fake Onee sama." Mocha only sighed at Kokoa's antics and kicked her over to the side. She then watched as a tall man with wavy silver hair stepped out of the limo. He was wearing a black suit and cape. Issa looked at his daughter and immediately noticed something. "Mocha, your Rosario." She responded with, "It was destroyed, father. I am unharmed and back to my true self." Issa narrowed his eyes and said, "Very well, now then." He then narrowed his eyes. "Please tell me that the reason you smell like a devil is because you killed one." Mocha flinched and lowered her head. She then let her wings appear. Issa stared at them and then said, "I hope you understand what you've done, Mocha. This is not something to be done lightly." Mocha looked her father in the eyes as she switched to her true form. "I know. I've made my choice." They stared at each other for a minute before Issa said, "Fine, I know that you would not submit to anyone unless you wanted to. Now, let's go find your king." Cafeteria. A few minutes later. Naruto was in a tense situation. He was going to get some drinks for the girls when he found himself face to face with Issa Shuzen. Naruto gulped as the vampire lord looked him over. Finally, Issa spoke, "So, you're the one my daughter joined." Naruto stood his ground and said, "Yes, I am. My name is Naruto Gremory." Issa raised an eyebrow. "Gremory I know that joining a peerage is irreversible, but I wish to make one thing clear. Issa stepped up to where the two were almost nose to nose. If you hurt her, then I'll hunt you down, and there won't be a single hole you can hide in to escape my wrath. Understood? Naruto still stood tall and said, I would never lay a finger on her. Issa seemed to accept this and said, I'll leave her in your care then. I must be going now. Goodbye Mocha. Goodbye father, Mocha said from beside Naruto. The next few hours were rather eventful, between Agaya trying to get Naruto to have his way with Kurumu, to Surara doing the same for Mizore. But the time came when they had to leave, so after the parents had left, Naruto and the girls loaded up onto the bus and headed for the human world, and their vacation. Karakura Town Airport. Naruto and friends had just got off the plane in Karakura Town, a lovely small city in Japan. Naruto and the girls were going to be staying at a property that the Gremories owned. The girls were headed there now. Naruto had given them some markers to toss down and get the rest of the peerage there, while he was on his way to pick up his queen. Naruto was walking through the streets of Karakura Town in his casual clothes, well, casual for him. Naruto was wearing black slacks, black men's Chelsea boots, a gray button-down shirt with the top couple of buttons undone, and an burgundy suit vest with black trim. As he was walking, he sighed as people started snapping pictures of him and whispering. Most devils had covers in the human world. Naruto had one as Naruto Gremory, the greatest actor of the century. That's right, Naruto is an actor. He had played in a few action movies as the star. He could really pull off the bad boy action hero look. Naruto walked for a few minutes, ignoring the looks he was getting, until he reached his destination, Karakura High School. Inside the school, Orihime Inoue was excited. No, that didn't even begin to describe how she was feeling right now. Not just because she would have Friday off, but her king was coming to get her. As she thought about that, she couldn't help but think back to when Naruto found her. It was a week after Sora Ni had died. She was crying outside their apartment. She had no idea what to do. She had no way of supporting herself. Her parents were not an option. She and Sora were born to a drunken father and a prostitute mother who argued a lot and beat the two of them. As soon as Sora was 18, he took Orihime and ran away. I'm not making this up. If you didn't know, this is actual Bleach canon. She was crying until he appeared. Naruto was standing over her and asking what was wrong. Orihime didn't know why, but she needed someone, anyone, to confide in. She told him her story and Naruto was both impressed that she could stay sane after all that, and sad for all that had happened to her. So, he offered her a place in his peerage as his queen. She had accepted, but chose to stay in Karakura Town until it was time, so she could be close to her brother. She and Naruto had come up with a bogus story about a far-off aunt who supported her. In reality, it was the Gremory family. Naruto stayed with her for a few months before he had to leave. She had told her king about all the crazy things that had happened, Hollows, Soul Reapers, she and her friends invading the Seiragi. Even about the head captain not taking any chances and going full Bankai on Aizen's ass. The four-eyed fucker didn't last a minute. Right now, Orihime was waiting at the school gate for her king. As she was waiting, her girlfriends came up to her. She truly loved her friends and hated having to keep this secret from them. Hopefully when she explained after her vacation, they would understand. One annoying thing was that everyone thought she had a crush on Kurosaki-kun. Sure, she liked him as a friend and respected him, but she didn't like him like that. She idly wondered how a fight between he and her king would go. Tatsuki walked up and smiled at Orihime. Hey, you ready to head off on your vacation? Orihime nodded and said, yep. I'm just waiting for an old friend to come pick me up. Rukia raised an eyebrow. Old friend? Do we know him? Orihime was about to respond until Mahana squealed, oh my god. Naruto Gremory is walking toward our school. The girls turned and saw that she was right. He was strolling up nonchalantly. Ryu was so shocked she couldn't speak, and Michiru was nearly hyperventilating. Rukia was also surprised. She had seen a few of his movies and they were very good. Tatsuki was secretly squealing in her head. Chizuru tried to look apathetic, but she was trying not to run away from him. Naruto walked right up to them, turned to Orihime and said, yo, Orihime-chan. The girls were even more shell-shocked when Orihime jumped up and pulled Naruto into a hug. When she was done, she turned to them and said, see you all Monday. Before taking Naruto's arm and dragging him away. The girls all stood there, rebooting. Gremory house. Okay, mansion, let's be honest, it's a mansion. Naruto and Orihime had just arrived at the front gate of a traditional Japanese-style mansion. As soon as Naruto and Orihime entered the house, they heard everyone out in the backyard. As soon as Naruto walked out the back door, he was bombarded with hugs from his old friends from Konoha. About time. Ino said after they got off of him. All five had grown up nicely over the years. All the girls were in casual clothes. Mocha was wearing a red sleeveless shirt with silver sleeveless vest, and a black skirt with short spandex shorts underneath, with heeled sandals. Kurumu wore a halter top exposing her midriff and jean short shorts, with flip-flops. Mizore wore a tank top, blue skirt with biker shorts underneath, and her usual striped stockings, with sandals. The Konoha girls are in casual versions of their Shippuden outfits. Sakura nearly crushed him with another hug. It's so great to see you again. Hinata, still as shy as ever, though no stutter, said, we all missed you Naruto-kun. Naruto idly noticed that Kurumu was staring at Hinata's chest with disbelief. Hers are nearly as big as mine. How is that possible? Then she noticed Orihime, the fuck. My tits were the whyest things I brought to the table, now these two show up with those. She then noticed Tenten giving her a knowing look. Kurumu chuckled nervously as Yakumo spoke up. It's so nice to be out of the house, she said, breathing the fresh air. Naruto gained a sad expression. How's it been? They at least let you outside, right? Yakumo nodded. Naruto had told everyone about her family situation at some point. Yeah, though I mostly just paint. It was a miracle that they even let me go on the bogus camping trip. Tenten walked up and put her arm around Yakumo's shoulder. Suor, miracle by Genjutsu? Yakumo's blush and nervous expression was all the answer needed. How's your Ido been behaving? Naruto asked. It's been very well actually. Turns out that my Ido was my own negative feelings given consciousness. We came to an understanding and now we work together. Though nobody in the clan believes me, she said with a downtrodden expression. Naruto nodded and placed a hand on her shoulder. Don't worry, we can all relax for now. How have you guys been? He asked the others. Hinata was first. I've been good, though the elders still think I'm worthless. They keep trying to make me fail at the academy. I can't wait to graduate this year. Assholes. Sakura scoffed a bit. My mother still thinks you're nothing but trouble. Even after you left, she still thought that you'd come and try to kidnap me. Ino laughed. It's been pretty good for me. I've learned a few clan jutsu. Though it's getting harder to hide stuff from Dad. He is the head of the T&I department after all. Tenten was last. I have been awesome. I graduated last year and my team was more than happy to let me go on a trip, though the wording was weird. She said with a shudder. Mini flashback. Yosh. Ten sans flames of youthful friendship are burning brightly. Indeed, Lee. It is quite youthful to wish for a camping trip with your friends. Ten. Why yes, sensei? You have my express permission. I hope your flames of youth burn even hotter after your trip. Guy sensei. Lee. Guy sensei. Lee. Guy sensei. Nobody wanted to ask why Tenten was shaking after she said that. Naruto decided to introduce Orihime. Well then, everyone. This is my queen, Orihime Inoue. While the girls introduced themselves, a knock was heard on the door. Naruto knew who it was and walked over. When he opened the door, he saw a girl with blonde hair styled in a 1920s fashion and blue-green eyes. As a matter of fact, her yellow dress, hat, and umbrella made her look straight out of the roaring 20s. Miss Valentine from One Piece. Hey there, handsome, she said as she gave Naruto a kiss on the cheek. Hello, Lily. Naruto said with a smile. He had met Lillian while accompanying his grandfather to a business deal when he was 14. She was the daughter of the CEO of Valentine Industries. They owned 90% of all clothing brands available. Joseph, as it turned out, was a huge investor in tons of companies. Naruto had met aboard Lillian while exploring the building. She wanted some excitement in her life. She wanted to live the highest life possible. Naruto had given her the choice to join his peerage for two reasons. 1. She had the makings of a fantastic tactician, and 2. She had a sacred gear. Her gear was no Longinus, but it was very rare and powerful, while simple. She possessed density distortion, and could change her body's weight. She could look light as a feather, but weigh over 10,000 pounds. Likewise, she could make herself so light that she could float away in a breeze. Naruto then let her in and introduced her to the rest of the peerage. Ladies, This is Lillian Valentine, my other rook. Lily gave then a smile and said, hello there. Naruto then said to all of them, now that everyone's here, I think we should do a little training. Kurumu slumped and said, what? This is supposed to be a vacation. Mizore flicked her head and said, he must have a good reason. You want us to see how everyone fights, right? Mocha asked with a small smirk. Naruto nodded and said, correct, now follow me please. Downtown Karakura. The group attracted some stares along the way. 10 extremely attractive girls and a movie star walking down the street would definitely turn some heads. Eventually, they arrived at their destination. Mocha was confused, Urahara Shoten? Naruto smiled at her and walked in. They followed him to see that he was talking to a blonde man with a bucket hat, cane, and green kimono. Well, it's been a long time, Naruto. The man said while covering his face with a fan. Yes, it has, Urahara-sensei. I was wondering if we could use your training room. Naruto had been brought to this place by Searsex before he met Orihime. Kazuki had trained Naruto for a week. By training, Kazuki ran around trying to slice Naruto in half. Kazuki smiled and walked back into the shop. Of course. I don't need it right now. Thank you. As Naruto took the girls back, he noticed their looks. That was Kazuki Urahara. He helped train me for a while. Believe me when I say that his training room is one of the best around. When they emerged, the girls, except Orihime, were stunned. You know what it looks like, if not, then look it up. Here's what we're going to do. You all know how I fight, but some of you, I haven't seen fight in years. So, we're going to have a few fights. Orihime will fight me. Kurumu will fight Yakumo, Mizore against Tenten, Lily against Mocha, and Hinata, Ino, and Sakura in a three-way match. Sound good? The girls all nodded and made space for Naruto and Orihime, but before they started, Naruto spoke to Orihime, it's time to activate your piece. What do you mean, wasn't it always active? Mizore asked. Naruto shook his head, no, Karakura town is the central hub for the Seirei, so he decided to give Orihime the piece, but not activate it. You ready, Orihime? Orihime nodded and braced herself as Naruto snapped his fingers. She gasped as new power flooded her being. Suddenly, her devil instincts caused her to feel some repressed emotions. Her rage towards her parents. Her frustration at being treated like a glass statue. All of those feelings were brought to the surface as her power emerged. Naruto gave her a second to regain her bearings. You okay? Orihime looked up and said, yes. Better than ever. Naruto nodded and said, alright then, remember, this is just a practice session to see what you have. Start. Koden Zanshin. Naruto was forced to dodge as a small red blade streaked by his side. He was about to counterattack when it completely changed direction and kept coming for him. He noticed that the blade was slicing the very air in its path. It was dangerous. He dodged once more and sent a wave of destruction at Orihime. She brought a hand up and said, Santen Keshun. A triangle-shaped shield made of red energy appeared and blocked the shot. Naruto was about to counter when he felt the small blade pressed into his back. He looked at a smiling Orihime and said, well done. She dropped her techniques and started bouncing around with excitement. That was amazing. Even though you could have beaten me in a real fight. I was like pow. Then Tsubaki was all like whoosh. I've never fought like that before. Naruto smiled at her enthusiasm. He knew that becoming a devil would change some things about her, but he was glad that she was still the same Orihime. One thing that had definitely changes, before the activation, she didn't like to fight and would rarely use Tsubaki's power. But how she just used it, she was relentless. Kurumu and Yakumo went down next. Yakumo took out a special book-sized canvas and paintbrush. They were both enchanted. The canvas could clear off anything drawn on it with a thought, and the brush would change colors at will and never run dry. The two stared until Naruto started the match. Yakumo started painting as Kurumu gathered her magic. The stuff she had learned was a type of magic given to Graphia by an old succubus friend. It was a type of magic that was designed to be incredibly beautiful. That was, the opponent wouldn't know if the pain was real or an illusion. The magic style also relied on Kurumu being slow, methodical, and relaxed in her movements, to further confuse the enemy. Kurumu channeled energy into the painting and watched as Kurumu doubled over in pain. The painting was of a huge fist punching Kurumu in the gut. Kurumu looked in Yakumo's eyes and tried to catch her in an illusion, but Yakumo only smirked. Kurumu narrowed her eyes and stood up. She then was swallowed in blue and pink butterflies. When it cleared, she was nowhere to be found. Yakumo was trying to find her when a swarm of butterflies flew in front of her. She tried to get out, but they all popped in an explosion of energy. Kurumu, sitting on top of a rock spire, gently pushed off and glided down to the ground. Yakumo pushed herself off of the ground and picked up her brush. She then painted one last picture. Kurumu, seeing this, flew in to stop her, but as soon as she got there, Yakumo disappeared and Kurumu found herself locked in a cage. She looked over to see Yakumo with a kunai placed at her neck. "That's it," Naruto said, stopping the fight. "That was really good, Yakumo. You can make solid objects?" She shrugged and said, "Not really, but I can make people think that they're solid." Naruto nodded with a smile and said, "You were good too, Kurumu. You're really coming along." Kurumu blushed and walked back to the peanut gallery. Next is Mizore and Tenten. Said girls walked out and drew their swords. Tenten had decided to start with a Chinese-style sword. Naruto started the fight and the two rushed forward, trading blow after blow with their swords. Not many people knew, but Mizore's mother had taught her swordsmanship from a young age. The two kept at it until Mizore switched up her style. She switched into her true form, holding the sword one-handed, pointing down to the ground, and her other clawed hand poised to strike. Tenten made a magic circle and pulled out two swords that looked like oversized butcher's knives. The two then clashed again in a battle so fast that most of the girls had to struggle to keep up with it. It looked even until Tenten slid on some ice on the ground. Mizore took advantage and froze Tenten up to her shoulders in ice. Naruto called the match after Mizore placed her sword at Tenten's neck. Mocha and Lily took their places to start. When Naruto started the match, Mocha shot forward. However, Lily jumped away. When Mocha looked up to find her, Lily was gone. Then as Mocha looked back on the ground, something fell from the ceiling fast enough to split the air. 5,000-pound press. Mocha put her arms up to defend herself, but she winced a bit as Lily slammed into her. Lily then swung one arm out and swung it back down. 1,000-pound slap hammer. Mocha was hit with the slam and was sent flying through some pillars. Lily floated toward the crater and was about to float off, but Mocha grabbed her ankle and started swinging her around. Lily tried to add more weight to make herself too heavy, but she didn't take Mocha's strength into account. When Mocha let go, she didn't just let go. She slammed Lily down into the ground hard enough to make a lily-shaped crater in the ground. Naruto's sweat dropped. "I think that's good." Lastly was Ino, Sakura, and Hinata. They took their places and waited for Naruto's call. When he started the match, the girls wasted no time in charging. They winded up in a free-for-all, taking shots at whoever was open. Though it soon became clear that Hinata had the advantage when it came to a close-quarters fight. Ino was then pushed back by a palm from Hinata. Sakura managed to get Hinata into a hold, though that was short-lived as Ino ran up and kicked the both of them onto the ground. Sakura grabbed Ino's foot and actually used her as a hammer to knock Hinata away, then she threw Ino into a wall. They all wound up one final hit before sprinting straight at each other. When they reached the center, they all punched. Sakura punched Ino, who punched Hinata, who punched Sakura. All three were knocked on their asses. Naruto decided to call it then. Gremory Mansion Hot Springs. Naruto sighed as he sat down in the hot water. He always enjoyed soaking in a hot spring. He was leaning against the wall separating his and the girl's side. Naruto suddenly heard Orihime's voice from the other side. "Naruto-kun, I didn't know that you knew Urahara-san." Naruto answered back, "Sorry about not telling you. It just slipped my mind." "It's alright, it was just a surprise." Something then popped into Lily's head. "Naruto-kun, what are we doing tomorrow?" Naruto thought for a minute and said, "I thought that we could hand around the house and relax, maybe go shopping for swimsuits so we can head to the beach the day after. There's a resort and private beach there that the family owns. We could stay there for a day." Let it be known that the Gremory family had something for every occasion. The girls were all for this, though some of them were thinking more about Naruto's reaction to their swimsuits. After a few more minutes of soaking, Naruto got out, said good night to the girls, and headed to his room. When he arrived, he saw that the bed was massive. It could fit at least 15 people, and it had entirely too many pillows and blankets. Nevertheless, Naruto crawled in and went to sleep. The next morning, Naruto woke up, and the first thing he realized was, something's wrong. yet it feels so heavenly. Naruto considered going back to sleep, but once he was awake, he'd never be able to get back, so he sat up and realized the situation. All 10 of them. All 10 of the girls had gotten into bed with him. They were all crowded up against him, but that wasn't what made him stare the most. Let me put it this way. The most conservative sleepwear on the bed was Hinata's nearly see-through lace nightie. Naruto blushed and slowly got out of bed. He then went downstairs and started on making breakfast. He decided to cook because he liked to. Most of the girls didn't know how to cook anyway. That and he was afraid to let Orihime do it. I love Orihime, but her cooking can be a bit much for new people. Naruto thought as he cooked, he didn't even notice the implications of his word choicing. While he cooked, the girls started to come into the dining room and sit down. They all greeted him and started chatting about things, mostly what kinds of swimsuits they were going to buy. Once everyone was sat down, Naruto brought in huge platefuls of eggs, bacon, waffles, and all kinds of food. Everyone enjoyed the relaxed atmosphere, though everyone except Naruto couldn't help but stare as Orihime covered her eggs and bacon with mustard, having her usual bubbly smile on her face. There was also Mizore covering her food with frost and munching away. After everyone was done, they all went up and changed into their casuals. They met at the front gate for their shopping trip and started walking to the mall. Along the way, needless to say, they got more looks. Humans were naturally charmed by devils after all. They went into a clothing store and headed straight for the swimwear section. Naruto split off from the girls to take a look at the men's section. After a few minutes of looking, he settled on a set of black trunks with red and orange lining and a pattern in the shape of bat wings. After buying them, he walked out and leaned against the wall next to the store entrance. While he was waiting, a group of 4 guys, obviously the school bully type, walked up to him. Hey. The apparent leader said, "Are you really Naruto Gremory?" Naruto stared impassively and said, "Yes I am." "Who are you?" The leader sneered and said, "Just a few guys who like to beat down pretty boys like you." Naruto's eye twitched as a group of people gathered around. The leader went to try and punch him. Keyword, tried. Naruto caught his punch with no effort and slammed a palm strike into his gut. The thug was sent back about 20 feet on the ground and was knocked out cold. 2 of the thugs stared at him, so Naruto came up and crashed their heads together, sending them into dreamland. Naruto looked at the last one and said, "Boo." He ran like a chicken with his head cut off. A few seconds later, a few security guards came and took the thugs away. It was then that Naruto was approached by a few people. He recognized some from when he picked up Orihime. "That was pretty impressive," said a boy about his height with orange hair and brown eyes, Ichigo Kurosaki. Naruto shook his hand and said, "Naruto Gremory." In that instant, they felt each other's power. They backed up as other people introduced themselves. "Uryu Ishida," said a boy with short black hair and glasses. "Yasutora Sato, but everyone calls me Chad," said the huge Hispanic boy. "Sup, the name's Keigo Asano," the hyper brown-haired kid said. "I'm Rukia Kuchiki, it's nice to meet you. You may remember me and Tatsuki from the school," the black-haired girl said. The tomboyish girl came in then. "I'm Tatsuki by the way, Tatsuki Arisawa," she said, still a bit secretly starstruck. "Chizuru Hansho," said the redhead who seemed completely uninterested in the conversation. Naruto was ready to start a conversation, but Kurumu came out of the store dragging Orihime and Hinata with her, each holding a bag. "Hey Narukoi. I managed to get these 2 to try some white swimsuits. We're gonna have some fun at the beach tomorrow." She then noticed the new arrivals. "Oh hey. Who are you guys?" "Hello everyone." Orihime greeted her friends with a smile. Keigo blinked a bit and said, "Orihime, how do you know a celebrity?" Orihime smiled and said, "I met Naruto when I was 12. It was right after my brother died, he helped me through it. He asked me to keep it a secret though, sorry guys." Ichigo shrugged and said, "It's okay. My Heim." Chizuru yelled as she attempted a flying glomp, the most powerful of all glomps, on Orihime. However, everyone was surprised when, instead of Tatsuki kicking her away, Orihime brought her leg up just like what Ichigo did to Keigo all the time. Chizuru slammed into her foot and slumped down to the ground. Orihime blinked at everyone's eyes widening as they stared at her. She tilted her head a bit. "What?" Uryu seemed to analyze her for a second. "You've never done that before. Something seems different about you." At this, everyone that could sense spiritual power focused on Orihime, and what they sensed surprised them. It felt like her power was increased exponentially. Not only that, it felt dark, much too dark for a girl like Orihime. Orihime picked up on this and said, "I've just been thinking about some things, nothing major." It was a few seconds later that the other girls walked out and joined them. Uryu narrowed his eyes. They all had dark energy, some more than others. With the biggest being, Naruto Gremory. "What are you? So, what are you guys here for?" Tatsuki asked. Ino was the one who answered, "We're buying swimsuits for our trip to the beach tomorrow." At this, Chizuru made a miraculous recovery. "Beach? Swimsuits?" She devolved into perverted mutterings in the corner. Naruto's sweat dropped and said, "Yeah. You're welcome to join us if you want." Ichigo said, "Sorry, but we have stuff to do." He then indicated Chad, Rukia, and Uryu. Keigo was crying anime tears. "I would, but I have to help my dad out at work." Tatsuki sent her best friend a sad look. "I have to practice for a tournament." Chizuru, after an internal debate, said, "I'll go. I've got nothing else to do." Orihime was delighted that one of her friends could come. "Yay. Just come to this address tomorrow morning at 10. She said, giving Chizuru a slip of paper. The group spent a few more minutes chatting before Naruto and his peerage split off and went home. The next morning, after spending the whole previous day lounging around the house, the girls were all ready to head off to the beach. Naruto had booked a bus to take them to the resort. He would have teleported them there, but with Chizuru coming, that would be detrimental. Naruto and the girls were currently standing out near the gate waiting for the bus. As they were waiting, Chizuru showed up. After she got over the house, she got into a conversation with the other girls. Despite her perverted nature, she was very nice to have around, it seemed. The bus soon showed up and everyone loaded onto it. Within a few hours, they were getting their stuff put away in the resort. It was a huge place, with a state-of-the-art kitchen, a luxurious living space with a wall-mounted obscenely large TV, huge floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the beach, and of course, the 20-person bed in Naruto's room. Speaking of Naruto, he was currently outside of Chizuru's room. He knocked a few times and when Chizuru opened the door, she simply stared for a few seconds before letting him in. Should have known. "I couldn't hide it, could I?" Naruto faced her and said, "You almost fooled me. You're very good at hiding your energy, but not good enough." Chizuru sighed as a pair of cat ears popped out of her hair and a cattail swished out of her skirt. "So what now?" she said, looking him in the eye. Naruto blinked and said, "Nothing." She was confused at this. Her ears twitched as Naruto continued to speak. "I just wanted to let you know that it doesn't matter to me. Everyone else sensed it. They wanted me to tell you that you didn't have to hide." Chizuru's eyes widened and she said, "Are really?" Naruto nodded and asked, "Why were you hiding anyway?" She adopted a melancholy expression and said, "My mother was a nekomata and my father was not. I was born with a unique feature, and a group of rogue yokai feared my potential, so they decided to try and get rid of me. They killed my parents when I was 7 and I wound up in the Karakura orphanage. I'm still there to this day." He narrowed his eyes. "What property is that?" Chizuru shook her head and said, "Not saying, I don't trust you yet." Naruto sighed and started to leave. "Fine, but just so you know, you don't have to hide from us." About an hour later, Naruto was using every ounce of his self-control to keep his eyes at face level with the girls. They were pulling all the stops. Hinata wore a black bikini with blue flames on it. Ino wore a powder blue one-piece that barely covered her top and had a hole in the bottoms just above her happy place. Sakura wore a one-piece with sakura blossoms all over and an exposed belly. Tenten was in a green bikini that looked tied together. Yakumo was wearing a pink one-piece with an attached skirt. Mocha was in a wine-red bikini set with the unimportant parts covered by sheer material. Kurumu wore a yellow string bikini. Mizore was in a purple one-piece only connected by 2 strips connected by a ring on each side of her ribs. Orihime wore a yellow two-piece with a top that was cupping her bust. Lillian wore an orange two-piece with attached skirt. And Chizuru wore a pink-red one-piece with a hole over her stomach and back. Lastly, Naruto was in the trunks he bought. Naruto decided to start by relaxing on the sand. As he was lounging and soaking up the sun, he marveled at how powerful the evil pieces were. Normally, devils would be weakened and uncomfortable in the sun, but each evil piece set had a special side effect depending on the king. Sona's would become naturally good at controlling magic, Ria's would become as close as family, and Naruto's gave his peerage a bit of his healing factor. It wasn't like they would regrow an arm in seconds like he could, but the sun no longer bothered them. Mocha also didn't have to worry about water. Though, he was starting to have trouble with relaxing, Kurumu and Ino were making no attempt to hide their attempted seduction. They were walking over and leaning down to talk to him, making sure that their assets were on full display. Even though the other girls weren't trying to, they also had the same effect. It was getting a bit hard for Naruto to control himself. What? He was still a red-blooded guy. Hey Kit, sorry I've been napping so much lately. I just ha hee hee hello. What is this sanctuary of jiggling flesh and the dreams of Men? Kit, what the fuck have you been doing while I was asleep? Naruto's eye twitched as he got up and headed for the water, trying, and failing, to avoid the volleyball game that the girls had started. After having all manner of beach activities that day, they had all retired to bed. By that I mean the girls all headed straight for Naruto. However, it was quite a surprise to everybody when they found Chizuru snuggled up to Naruto. Upon waking up, she blushed a crimson red, but made no attempt to get up until everyone else did. They spent a few hours lounging around, watching TV and relaxing. When they eventually left to head back to the city, they decided to spend the last day of their vacation in the underworld. But before that, Naruto gained his last peerage member. Naruto was standing on the deck with Chizuru. She had asked him to follow her out there. For what, he didn't know. You asked me what my unique feature is. Are you still interested? She asked with a nervous expression. Naruto nodded and allowed her to speak. When I said that my father wasn't a Nekomata, he wasn't human either. He was a werewolf. As she said this, one of her ears changed to a dog ear, and a fluffy dog tail sprouted from her tailbone right next to her cattail. Naruto blinked. Well, that was unexpected. I thought they hated each other, Nekomata and werewolves I mean. Chizuru shrugged and said, what can I say? They were in love. I guess that those rogue yokai thought I was a bad omen. As a matter of fact, they're still after me. Naruto thought for a minute and said, I can help with that. If you join my peerage, I can protect you. He then took out his last 2 pawns. Chizuru blinked and said, are you sure you want me? Even my supposed family thinks I'm an abomination. The fact she could say that and be completely neutral cemented Naruto's decision. You deserve better than being on the run every second of the day. I promise you, that if you join me, then I will protect you with my life. Chizuru blushed and nodded. After Naruto was done, thankfully it only took his last 2 pawns, she stretched a bit and flexed her power. Wow. I feel awesome. Naruto smiled, but it faltered at her next words. That settles it. I want you, she said with her wide smile and a dramatic point. Naruto reacted appropriately. Huh? I thought you. She smiled coyly and said, I swing both ways. She then walked back into the resort with a noticeable sway in her hips. Naruto stood there before speaking. The fuck McJuggernuggets is up with my life? I believe it was profound. The next day, Gremory Mansion. Naruto had just teleported everyone to the Gremory household. The girls were all impressed with the house. Before Naruto could say anything, a voice spoke up and startled them all. It spoke with a calm sense of dread. Naruto-sama, where have you been? You were supposed to check in every month. Naruto slowly turned to come face to face with Graphia. He chuckled and said, sorry, I kinda got distracted. She swept her eyes over his peerage. Indeed. Venalana-sama has been trying to get a hold of you for over a month. Naruto paled and started walking toward her room with a sense of impending doom. When they arrived, Naruto walked in and left the girls outside. They then started a conversation. What do you think she wants to ask Naruto-kun about? Lillian asked. Sakura thought and said, she probably wants to yell at Naruto-kun for not talking to her. Hinata was next. I hope she's not too hard on him. Tenten came up and put her arms around their shoulders. Ah, come on. Naruto-kun can handle it. Are you sure about that? Yakumo asked. What do you mean? Mizore was slightly worried. Mocha spoke up and said, what man can stand up to feminine fury? Kurumu winced. Well, he's screwed. What do you think, Haim-chan? Haim-chan? Chizuru questioned the queen. When they received no answer from their ditzy queen, they all looked to find her darting around the mansion. This place is beautiful. Imagine a grand ball in here, everyone in fine dresses and dancing to high society music. with a huge buffet table complete with tomato fruit punch and blueberries covered in peanut butter. Everyone's sweat dropped at her choice in snacks and active imagination. Grafia blinked and asked, "Is she always like that?" Chizuru nodded and said, "Yep, but that's what makes her unique." Venelena's room. That's a lot to take in, Naruto said as he thought about what his grandmother had just told him. She was sitting on a chair near her bed and said, "I know it's strange, but that's what happened." She had just finished telling him about her meeting with the Namikaze family. I need time to think about this, Naruto said, a bit overwhelmed. Venelana nodded and then brought up a new topic. "I have a contract for you. I believe that it's right up your alley." Naruto looked her in the eye and asked, "What mission?" "One of great importance. Tell me, have you ever heard of Nami no Kuni?" "Nami no Kuni?" Naruto asked with a raised eyebrow. "Not much. Small island country with no ninja, protected by the ocean, trade hub. Why?" Venelana cleared her throat. "I have received a contract from one of the residents. It would appear that the country has been taken over by a man named Gato. He has the country in a lock by cutting off all trade. The local bridge builder is preparing a bridge to break Gato's hold, but he needs some protection. So the client used a contract to call for help. I want you to go there and deal with the situation." Naruto nodded. "When?" She smiled. "You still have today to spend with your friends. You can leave sometime tomorrow." "Right. Well, I guess I just have to relax now." Venelana giggled. "Oh no you don't. Did you forget about tonight?" Naruto groaned as he realized what she was referring to. They left Venelena's room to see the girls and Grafia waiting for them. When she saw him, Grafia remembered something. "Naruto-sama, what do you wish to wear to the premiere tonight?" "Premiere?" Orihime asked, ceasing her examination of the curtains. Naruto nodded. "Yeah, a red carpet event for my new movie, Overdrive Reloaded." This film was a remake of an older movie. It broke box office records the year it came out, so they decided to do a remake. "I made this movie up, if there is one, then I don't know it." Naruto played the villain of the movie, Drake Hornigold, and he had even gotten some tips from the actor who played him originally. The girls all gained sparkles in their eyes at this. "Can we come?" Kurumu asked, wanting to be on the red carpet. Naruto nodded. "Yeah, I can bring all the friends I want." The girls all started planning on what to wear, until Venelana pulled out a credit card. "Come girls, let's go shopping." They all nodded and teleported away, leaving Naruto and Grafia. Naruto looked over to the maid and said, "I'll just wear my usual." She nodded and left. Naruto sighed and walked around the manor. He decided to head for the gardens. He always liked it there. When he arrived, he saw that he wasn't alone. Sitting up to a table, eating a piece of cake, was a small white-haired girl. Naruto walked up behind her and scratched a spot on top of her head. "Hey Kaneko-chan, what are you doing here?" The girl, upon realizing who was petting her, melted into his hand and said, "We're off from school." "Ah, so Rias and Akano are here too?" Naruto said. He received his answer when a pair of arms slipped around his neck and he felt two large mounds press against his back. "Hello Naruto-sama, when did you arrive back?" Tilda, a sensuous voice said into his ear. Naruto, having grown used to it over the years, said, "There you are Akano, where's Rias?" Akano let go of him and pouted a bit. "It was so fun to make you blush. Now you don't even twitch." "I know, not even my charm works on him now." Another voice said from nearby. Naruto turned to see an older and much more beautiful Rias walking toward them. "So Naruto-kun, how was your new school?" Naruto shrugged. "It was alright, though I gained the rest of my peerage since I went." "Really?" Rias asked. "You're always so careful with your pieces, so who did you recruit?" Naruto smiled. "You'll meet them eventually. So how's school been, and where's Gasper?" Just after Naruto said that, a box near a bush popped open and said Dampier popped out, right here. So Naruto spent the next few hours catching up with Rias, Kaneko, and Akano. When they sensed a large group of people teleport into the manor, they went back to the entrance hall to see Venelana and Naruto's peerage back. Rias was a bit threatened by all the beautiful girls. She had a crush on Naruto and she thought that now he wouldn't care about her anymore. One glance from her mother told her that she was being stupid. If they got married, it wouldn't be a problem. Devils didn't care about incest too much. Akano felt a bit cautious as well. She was not conceited in saying that she was beautiful, but these girls had looks and bust sizes on par with hers. Kaneko took one look at all the huge busts, looked down at her own chest, and gained a dark cloud above her head. After introducing everyone, the girls left to put on their dresses, though as they left, Naruto saw Sakura and Kaneko staring at each other's chest, to each other, and then they shook hands with sparkles all around them. When they were ready to go, just before they left, then Alana walked out and said, "By the way, Naru-chan, I told her that you were back." Naruto froze and turned back to her. She nodded and he instantly felt a sudden sense of doom. The girls were confused. What woman could make Naruto so afraid? Naruto spun around just in time for something to slam into him. The girls jumped back to see a girl with angel wings in an exceedingly skimpy maid outfit hugging the life out of Naruto. "Naru-sama, how could you not tell me you were back first thing?" Naruto sighed at his personal maid. I'm sorry Jibril, I just didn't think it mattered if I told you, since I'm only going to be here for a few days." It was 2 years ago. Naruto had met her when he was looking for an ancient book on magic. Jibril owned the library, and the only copy. She agreed to hand over the book if Naruto would impress her in a battle of brains and brawn, so they played a word game while fighting. Jibril was a flugel, a race created by the angels to replace soldiers lost in the Great War, but they proved to be difficult. They would kill simply because they wanted to, they would love to fight, yet they couldn't fall, no matter what. So they decided to get rid of the flugel, but one survived. A prodigy baby named Jibril, the youngest and strongest. Even if she wasn't a prodigy, she would be exceedingly powerful. One pair of flugel wings was equal to 2 pairs of angel wings, and Jibril was stronger still. She was the toughest opponent Naruto had ever fought, bar none. When they met, Jibril looked down on him and proclaimed that a lowly devil couldn't possibly beat her. But he did, and she was enamored with his power, leading to her falling for him. Due to their inability to become corrupted, she couldn't be reincarnated, though she was more than happy to be his personal maid and assistant. "She's wearing her normal outfit in a French maid style. Naru-sama's so mean," she said, gaining a few tears in her eyes. Naruto sighed as he introduced her to everyone. Meanwhile, Jibril couldn't help but let her mind wander to the moment she saw Naruto's true power. She was the only one who had ever seen it. Naruto practiced in secret, she alone knew his full potential. Even now, just thinking about it made her shiver. Flashback. Jibril giggled to herself as she licked some blood off her cheek. The battle was fierce, but she was coming out on top. "I'll let you leave now. You can't win, we're close, but I'm slightly better." Naruto looked up and said, "As we are now, yes. I guess I'll have to use it now." The flugel watched as he placed his arms in a cross formation in front of himself, hands clawed, and eyes closed. Jibril felt familiar energy arise in him. A sacred gear? So he's part human. When she finally saw it, her eyes went wide. Then she started laughing. "Ha ha 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 ha. Please tell me that you don't expect to beat me with that. The most useless sacred gear in existence. Ha. Unfortunately, it was true. Naruto's sacred gear, while rare, like he's the 5th person in history to have it rare, it was regarded as the most useless. Naruto took a deep breath and released all his power. Jibril stopped laughing and looked back at him. Then she knew she had lost. "Wow, what is this?" she yelled as the world was cracking around her. Everything was cracking like a pane of glass. She turned to look at Naruto and was instantly transfixed by his eyes. His pupils had dilated, and inside them, never-ending ribbons of blue, green, and gold, along with countless pinpricks of light. It looked like there was a whole galaxy in his eyes. Naruto held up his hand and prepared to snap. It's not that it's useless, it's that nobody was using it right. He snapped, and Jibril's world went white. Flashback end. Jibril was pulled out of her memories as Naruto asked her what she had been up to. One thing was for sure. Naruto was going to go far in the world. She would be right there to support him. A few minutes later, Naruto was standing outside by the Hummer limo. He was waiting for the girls to get done so they could leave. Eventually, the girls all walked out, making sure to flaunt what they had to Naruto. Rias wore a red evening gown that accentuated her curves. Akeno wore a black cocktail dress. Kaneko had a silver gown. Mocha wore a black gothic Lolita dress. Kurumu wore a strapless yellow evening gown. Mizore had a pale blue dress with a hoop skirt. Ino had a dark blue one-sleeved cocktail dress. Sakura wore a red Chinese-style dress. Tenten had a black dress like Sakura's. Hinata wore a purple kimono with pink obi. Yakumo had a green mid-thigh-length yukata. Chizuru wore a gown decorated with thin stripes of leopard print every few inches. Lillian wore a glitzier version of her usual dress with no hat. Lastly, Orihime wore a dark orange evening gown that made the innocent and bubbly girl look like a seductress. They all loaded up into the limo, teleported to the human world, and headed off for the premiere. They arrived and watched as the other stars made their appearances. Naruto saw quite a few people he didn't want to, like Avalon Clark. Naruto really wished she wasn't part of the movie. She kept hitting on him every chance she got, and he seriously wasn't interested. She was the typical Hollywood stuck-up actress. There was also Cameron Black. He played the villain's second in command, and he seemed to believe that he was the greatest thing to happen to Hollywood since sound. When it was their turn to get out and walk down the carpet, Naruto got out and ignored the cameras and reporters. He turned to help Orihime out of the car. She stepped away and waited for him to help everyone out. Once they were all standing and about to walk to the door, they were being bombarded with questions from the reporters. They simply ignored them all and walked to the door to the theater, the girls all trying to hold on to a part of him. People seemed to be wondering why Kaneko was holding a box over her shoulder, but they just ignored it. When they entered, all eyes turned to them, and proceeded to widen exponentially. All throughout the filming, Naruto never once showed any interest in Avalon, even though she was one of the most beautiful actresses in the world. But seeing these girls explained it. These girls blew her out of the water. As the girls went in to get seats, Naruto walked to the concession stand to get drinks. He could sense Cameron and Avalon coming up behind him. He turned around to see them giving him some of the most fake smiles he had ever seen. "So Naruto, who are they?" Avalon said, plainly trying to hide her jealousy. "Friends," Naruto answered plainly. "Where were you hiding them, buddy?" Cameron asked while putting his arm around Naruto. Naruto simply removed the arm and said, "I wasn't, they just wanted to come tonight, now if you'll excuse me." With that, he walked back to the theater with the drinks. Avalon was livid. She wanted Naruto. Not just because he was a total hunk, but he was seriously famous, and she liked putting herself on a pedestal. Cameron wasn't happy either. He hated Naruto, so much that he had even tried to use a contract with the devil to have him killed. Summoning the devil worked, but when he heard the name of the target, the devil went pale and said, "Fuck that. I'm partial to living." When the movie started, Naruto and the girls sat down and got comfortable. After the movie, limo. The girls were all talking about the movie, while Naruto was reflecting on it. Working on the movie was one thing, but watching it was always different. One thing that the girls all agreed on, was that the scene where Naruto went shirtless was the best part, and also when he drove off to plan his next move. When they arrived back at the manor, Ino, Hinata, Tenten, Orihime, Lillian and Chizuru got ready to head back home. Though Yakumo had decided to stay with Naruto. "Are you sure?" he asked, wanting to make sure that she truly wanted to. Yakumo nodded, "Yes. My family situation has been getting worse. It won't be long before they don't let me out at all. Plus with Kurenai refusing to teach me." Naruto nodded and said, "Of course you can stay, we can set you up a room later." Yakumo and the whole peerage said goodbye to the ones leaving. Mocha, Mizore, and Kurumu had nothing else to do, so they, like Yakumo, stayed with him. "Oh, we're gonna miss you, Yakumo," Tenten said, giving her old friend a hug. "Take care of yourself, okay?" Sakura said, a bit sad. "What are we going to tell people when we show up without her?" Hinata asked. Ino thought for a minute. "We could say that we were knocked out and when we woke up, she was gone. So we immediately packed up and went home. We could make the genjutsu easy to sense so they believe it easier." Naruto nodded. That would work. The next day, Karakura High School. Orihime took a deep breath and waited for her friends to show up. She was on the roof and had asked them to talk at lunch. As she was waiting, she sensed something. A devil, but it felt malicious and wild, a stray. Based on his power, I could kill him easily. Wow, did I really just think that? Naruto was right, becoming a devil really messed with my head. 2. Ichigo sighed as he and the others walked up the stairs to the roof. Orihime seemed really nervous. When they arrived, they opened the door to see Orihime and a man in a suit? Though the man, he felt worse than a hollow. Rukia went stiff at seeing him. He was a devil. On paper, the three factions and the Soul Society had a simple, you leave me alone, I leave you alone, relationship. Sadly, a good number of Shinigami thought that devils were monsters, and Rukia was one of them. She didn't hate them, and she had never met one, but the only thing she had to go on was the Kuchiki elders, and they had told her that they were all monsters. They were about to walk out, but Orihime spoke. What do you want, Stray? Ichigo and the others were a bit startled. That wasn't how Orihime usually acted. Tatsuki was a bit afraid at the change in her friend. That didn't sound like the bubbly girl she knew at all. The stray chuckled, I'm here to extend an invitation. I am starting up a group of strays who don't want to be slaves to their pureblood masters. I want to know if you'll join us. You must hate being under your master's thumb. Chad was confused. Master? Does he have Orihime confused with someone else? Tatsuki stared. He has to. Orihime doesn't have a moss. My master has been nothing but kind to me. Now leave, she said, stunning them all. The stray chuckled, come on sweetie. All purebloods are self-centered assholes. Come with me and we'll kill them all. He then found a blade of red energy at his throat, coming from Orihime's hand. Listen to me, you filthy mongrel. I will stand by my master until my dying breath. Her wings erupted from her back. Now leave before I stain the floor with your blood. If everyone watching was surprised before, now they were mortified. What happened to Orihime? Fine, but I'll be back. The stray said, until he found himself face down with someone on his back. Then he felt someone knock him out. She might have let you go, but I think it would be easier to just kill you now. Chizuru said with her cat ears and tail out, holding a kunai from Naruto to the devil's neck. Ichigo walked out with everyone and said, what the hell is going on here? Orihime and Chizuru turned to them and stopped. A few minutes later, Orihime was out of her devil mode, as she liked to call it. She had just finished explaining herself and Chizuru being devils, and how long they had been. I'm sorry if I scared you. Naruto said that my personality conflicted with the devils so much that my evil piece created a split personality that is everything a devil should be. Sometimes I switch back and forth without noticing. Tatsuki placed her hands on Orihime's shoulders. Why didn't you tell us? Why didn't you tell me? Orihime gained a sad expression. I'm sorry. I was afraid of what you'd think. Uryu shook his head. After all we've been through, you think we'd care about this? Orihime nodded and Tatsuki bopped her on the head. Stupid. Orihime let out a few tears, and Rukia smiled. She was happy that the elders were wrong. Nami no Kuni. Naruto walked up to the house, situated on the water in Nami. Mocha, Mizore, Kurumu, Yakumo, and himself were about to meet the client, and they had changed back into their casual, battle wear. Though Mizore had chosen to put her stockings back on. He knocked on the door and waited. When it opened, it revealed a woman with long dark hair. Can I help you? Naruto nodded. I am Naruto Gremory, devil of the Gremory house. I believe you made a request by way of contract? Her eyes widened. That actually worked. Please come in. They all got situated at the dining table and Naruto spoke. So you want us to get rid of Gato? She nodded. Naruto continued. Very well, though a couple rules. 1. We use our own methods to accomplish the mission. 2. You don't reveal our status as devils to anyone. Tsunami nodded again. Though one thing. I think my father hired shinobi from Konoha. Naruto's eye twitched as the girls flinched. After that, she explained how the situation started, including Inari's attitude problem and Kaiza. They spent the next few days gathering intel on Gato and his operations. He had hired a few shinobi, but nothing that they couldn't handle. Naruto was currently walking through the woods looking for Zabuza's base, but instead he happened upon the man himself fighting a team from Konoha. The team was made up of Inara, an Akamichi, an Aburame, and Ino, led by a huge man with a beard. Naruto recognized him from the pictures around Gigi's place. Asuma Sarutobi, that was his name. Naruto watched as Zabuza and Asuma clashed. He leaned against the tree and waited. After a brief clash, Zabuza was wounded and struck by a few senbon in the neck. He fell and a hunter nin appeared, thanking them. Naruto walked out and said, a convincing act, but not enough. Everyone looked to see him, Asuma and Shikamaru immediately analyzing him, with Choji not knowing what to do, and Ino gaining a sparkle in her eye and jumping a bit. The hunter Nin's eyes widened under her mask. She grabbed Zabuza and shunshined away. Asuma analyzed this new player. He didn't have a headband, so he wasn't a ninja, but he carried himself with confidence, and he didn't bat an eye at the battle he was obviously watching. Naruto turned and saw Tazuna. "Ah. So there you are, Tsunami-san hired us to help protect you. Follow me Konoha Nin, I'll lead you to Tazuna's place." With not much else to do, they followed. When they arrived back, there were multiple reactions. Shikamaru didn't care about anything and sat down to put his head down on the table. Choji gained a blush at the four extremely beautiful women. Lastly, Ino subtly gave them a wink. Asuma's reaction was the most analytic. He immediately noticed the missing Kurama heiress, but she didn't seem to be in any kind of trouble or stress. There were a few other things. The pink-haired girl had a deep bloodlust. The blue-haired one was giving off a subtle, charming genjutsu. The purplet was nearly lowering the room temperature, and the boy, there was something familiar about him. After doing introductions, the two teams decided to head to bed. Asuma, being incredibly tired, decided to leave the questions for the next day, and so he and his team went to bed as well. Later that night, Mocha tossed and turned on her futon. She was so hungry. In all the excitement of the last few days, she had forgotten to drink one of her blood packs. Now she didn't have any with her. She sat up, letting the blanket fall off her bra and panty-clad body. She stood up and walked down the stairs to the living room. She sat down on the couch and tried to forget about her hunger, but she knew it was useless. She would slowly go crazy until she got blood. She needed some, badly. "What's wrong, Mocha-chan?" She heard Naruto's voice ask from the stairs. She turned and had to force herself not to jump when she saw his bare neck. She shook her head. "Nothing, I'm fine," she said with a forced smile. Naruto noticed easily. He then sat down next to her. "Please don't lie to me, Mocha-chan, just tell me what's wrong." It was then that he noticed that she'd switched to her vampire form. She was also licking her lips while slowly inching toward his neck. "You're hungry." Mocha realized what she was doing and jumped back. "I'm sorry, I just haven't eaten in a while. I'll try and control me's." She was stopped by Naruto placing his hand on the back of her head and placing her mouth near his neck. "Go ahead, have all you want. I'd never let you go hungry, Mocha-chan." Her eyes went wide as she opened her mouth and licked his neck. She had never drank from a living being before, but she had heard that it was much better than blood packs. She bit down and pressed herself into Naruto. Her eyes dilated as the blood flowed into her mouth. As she drank, she felt a heat spread from her mouth throughout her body. It was the most delicious thing she had ever tasted. The heat spread throughout her body. She felt like someone lit a fire in her soul. She was grateful that Naruto didn't notice. When she stopped, she took her mouth off and said, "Thank you, Naruto-kun. I think I'm gonna stay down here for a minute." Naruto nodded with a small smile and walked back up to their room. As soon as he was gone, Mocha's legs turned to jelly and she collapsed onto the couch. Aha. She spent the next few minutes calming down. That was much more intense than I imagined. It must have been a combination of not eating and my feelings for him. She took a few more minutes, wiping some blood off her lip and sucking it off. She then changed back to her sealed form and walked up to their room to sleep. When she arrived, she saw that Naruto was already back to sleep. She sat down and covered herself with her blanket. But before she could go to sleep, she heard Kurumu's voice. What happened?" Mocha turned to see Kurumu staring at her with a gleam in her eye. Mizore and Yakumo were also looking. Mocha blushed a bit. "I just drank his blood, that's it." Kurumu nodded. "Okay, so why'd I smell on you?" Mocha turned over. "What are you talking about?" "As if I would." Mizore gained a small smirk. "So if you pulled that blanket down you wouldn't be completely soaked?" "Shut up," Mocha said in a rare moment of embarrassment. Yakumo, feeling sorry for the vampire, said, "Come on. Maybe we should leave her be." Kurumu giggled a bit. "Alright, we're sorry. It's just that we get so few chances to tease you." With that, the four girls lie back in air beds and followed their king into the realm of dreams. One thing that they didn't notice, however, was a black cat with a curly tail sitting on the open windowsill watching them with a mischievous gleam in its yellow eyes. The cat jumped into the room and crawled over to Naruto, snuggling into his side. The next morning, Naruto's nose twitched as he felt something tickle him. He opened his eyes to see the girls still asleep, and the beginning rays of morning light just beginning to shine through the window. He looked down to see what caused his discomfort, and he saw the cat. He stared at it for a minute before sitting up and picking it up, taking it to eye level. It opened its sleepy eyes and rubbed its eye. Naruto sighed. You really like to show up whenever it suits you, don't you? And where's your hat? The cat yawned and gave him a sleepy smile. I just wanted to leave it off for a while, and is it bad that I'm here? It said in a light and playful girl's voice. Naruto smiled and shook his head at his familiar's attitude. No, it's not. Welcome back. She smiled and took the opportunity to climb up onto Naruto's head, setting herself in his hair. Naruto sighed and got up, changed out of his pajamas, ignoring the cat's look, and headed downstairs to see Tsunami making breakfast. She heard him and turned to smile at him. Oh, you're up. I just got up a few minutes ago myself. Then she noticed the cat on his head. Naruto reached up and scratched the cat's head. Sorry. She's my familiar, it's an assistant to a devil. I promise she's very well behaved. Tsunami nodded. Well, as long as she doesn't make a mess. Naruto's feline companion huffed. It's not like I do it all the time. Did she just? Tsunami asked, blinking. Yes, she did. Most familiars can't talk, but she's special. Naruto said, giving the happy cat another round of petting. It was true, she was special when it came to familiars. She was born a regular cat, however her mother was exposed to potent magic somewhere, giving the kitten incredibly strong magical power. Power that Naruto had sensed, leading to the two meeting. Naruto sat down and waited for breakfast, as well as everyone else to get up. It wasn't long before the smell of breakfast filled the air, leading to everyone waking up and coming down. After Asuma dragged Shikamaru down, they all engaged in some small talk. Incredibly awkward small talk, but talk nonetheless. Mostly about the cat, but Naruto just said that she was his personal summon. Simple, and not entirely untrue. Asuma debated bringing up Yakumo's presence and asking her to return to the village. He decided against it. If it came to a confrontation, he didn't know if he could win. From what he could see, the 4 teens were very strong, and Yakumo was nowhere near as weak as everyone thought she was. Though it seemed that Ino was hitting it off marvelously with them, Yakumo he would understand. From what he had heard, they had been friends for years. But it was the ease with which she conversed with the other 4 that got him confused. Shikamaru was also noticing this, and while he didn't think it was anything to be concerned about, he was definitely curious. Once Tsunami was done with breakfast, she set some plates down in front of everyone. They all dug in with gusto, except for Mocha. She just picked at her food. When asked why by Tsunami, she said, I'm afraid that my bloodline doesn't require me to eat normal food. I still can, but I don't really need to. This definitely got people's attention. What kind of bloodline made it so people didn't need to eat? Choji seemed mortified. I can't imagine never eating. It sounds horrible. Mocha shook her head. It's not that I don't need to eat. It's that I don't eat regular food. Speaking of which, Naruto, may I? I'm still a bit hungry. Naruto sighed. Alright, go ahead Mocha-chan. He said as he loosened his collar and exposed his neck. Everyone was wondering what he was doing, until Mocha turned into her vampire form and she leaned, showing everyone her fangs. They were getting a bit concerned. Then they were shocked as Mocha bit into Naruto's neck, drinking down his blood, while a small drop escaped, going down his neck. When Mocha was done, she licked up the stray drop and drew back, licking the blood from her teeth and lips. As she returned to her sealed form, was amused by the others' wide eyes. I don't need to eat, but I need to drink blood to survive. It's always fun to see people's reactions to learning that, she said with an amused smirk. Tazuna shook his head, looked at his sake bottle, and tossed it out the window. Asuma shook his thoughts away and focused on the mission. So Tazuna-san, do you know where Gato's base is? Tazuna sighed. I'm sorry to say I don't. He never lets anyone who finds out life long after. It's a mansion in the forest, near the center of the island. Mizore said, taking a bite of her frozen eggs. Shikamaru looked up for the first time. How do you know that, if I may ask? Kurumu spoke up this time. We were hired by Tsunami-san to take care of Gato. Since we 2 groups are working toward more or less the same end, we might as well help each other. Choji stopped eating for a second to say, where were you guys hired from? You don't have headbands, so you can't be from a ninja village. This time it was Yakumo who spoke. We can't tell you that. But we are working to help Nami. The same as you. On a side note, Asuma made a mental note that she was a part of whatever organization it was. Come on sensei, what's the harm? The more the merrier, right? Ino said with a smile. Asuma sighed, fine, excellent. Naruto said, now to share what we know. Zabuza and that hunter Nen are obviously working together. We've also figured out that Gato is going to betray them. How did you figure that out? Shikamaru asked. Kurumu chuckled. I can be very persuasive when I want to be. Succubus charm for the win. She had charmed some of Gato's thugs, working her way to someone who knew what the scumbag was planning. Ino took on a thinking pose. Based on the injuries Zabuza sustained during the battle, he should be out of commission for about a week. Then we have a week to train and get stronger. I just hope it'll be enough. Choji said, finishing off his breakfast. Naruto then spent the next few minutes explaining what they learned about Gato's plans. The fight would take place on the bridge. Gato would wait for Zabuza and his associates to finish fighting, whether they won or lost, and show up with an army of thugs to wipe out whoever was left. So who's going where? Shikamaru asked, his tactician mind going to work. Normally he would already have some idea, but he knew nothing about their new ally's abilities. Naruto thought for a second, Asuma-san and I will take care of Zabuza and the hunter Nin respectively. Mizore and Ino can come as backup to protect Tazuna or take care of any reinforcements Zabuza brought along. Lastly, everyone else goes to take care of Gato's army. Asuma nodded, it was a solid plan. What about the crime boss himself? Naruto gave a small smirk and pet the feline on his head, don't worry. We'll take care of that. Everyone shivered as the cat got an expression much like a regular one got thinking about playing with the mouse it had just caught. Why are you even trying? You'll all just die anyway. Inari said quietly. They all got quiet as he said that. Tsunami's eyes widened a bit, Inari. They're risking their lives to help us, you should be grateful. He shook his head, nobody can beat Gato, they're going to die. Is that what you really think? Or is it just easier to give up? Everyone looked over to Naruto as he continued. Tsunami-san told us about what happened to Kaiza. While I can understand that it was traumatizing for you, it seems like an insult to his memory to just give up. As yourself this Inari, if he were here, what would he be telling you to do? Inari stayed silent at that. Naruto was right, he had just given up without a fight. With that, he stood up, I need to go think. He then went up the stairs to his room. After that, they had all dissolved into their own tasks. Asuma took his team out to train, Naruto and his familiar left to scout out her entry point into Gato's mansion, and Mocha and Kurumu stayed with Tsunami to protect her. Lastly, Mizore and Yakumo protected Tazuna while he worked on the bridge. A few hours later, Naruto was jumping through the trees back to the house when he spotted something. It was the hunter Nin, but in a pink yukata and looking around a clearing. Naruto stopped on a branch and debated going down and talking to her. On one hand, he could take her out now and have one less enemy to deal with, on the other hand, he could approach her and maybe convince her of Gato's betrayal. He debated his options for a minute before shrugging and dropping down just behind her. Upon hearing his landing, she jumped halfway across the clearing, Kya. Hello Hunter-san. She pulled out a few senbon from somewhere. Then got into a low stance and glared at him. Naruto rolled his eyes and said, if I wanted to hurt you, I could have easily done it when you didn't know I was here. She stayed in the same stance, be that as it may. I'm not stupid. I never said you were. Naruto said while staring her straight in the eye, if so you should know that Gato intends to double-cross you. It's easy to spot, so easy that you and Zabuza couldn't possibly be blind to it. Her grip tightened on her senbon and a hint of doubt entered her eyes. Not just at his words, but the whole situation. She was armed and poised to strike, yet he simply stood there, watching her, almost like whatever she did, he would have an answer for it. Say we have noticed. What's your angle? She said, wanting to know why he was even talking to her. Naruto raised an eyebrow, angle? My only angle is that I want to avoid any unnecessary bloodshed, plus, let's be blunt here. You want him dead as much as I do. Naruto knew he had hit the nail right on the head when he saw her eyes widen and her guard drop a bit, before she realized and put it back up. If you and Zabuza-san want to be free and live a happy life, my family and I can make that happen. When you come to the bridge, have an answer ready. I'm Naruto by the way, Naruto Gremory. With that, Naruto turned and walked away. Wait, I need to ask you something. When he stopped and turned, she spoke, "Why do you fight? What drives you?" Naruto took a moment to think before responding, "I fight to protect my family and my friends. I care about them more than anything else in the world, and I'd gladly give my life to make them happy and safe." She smiled, "I think that you have the right idea. I believe that people can become truly strong only if they have someone to protect. My name is Haku, by the way." Naruto nodded with a small smile. "It's nice to meet you, Haku-chan. I hope you and Zabuza take my offer, but even if you don't, it was still a pleasure." 1 week later. So, the week passed much the same as before, with Naruto and his group scouting around and working where they were needed, while Asuma's team alternated between training and guarding Tazuna. A few days ago, they had split into their planned groups, just in case Zabuza was up earlier than planned. Speaking of which, the team of Asuma, Naruto, Ino, and Mizore had just walked onto the bridge, to see all the workers knocked out and a thick mist had descended onto the bridge. The four stood at the ready as Zabuza and Haku stepped out of the mist. As Asuma stepped forward to start the battle, Naruto beat him to it. "So, your answer?" Asuma wondered what he was talking about when Zabuza spoke up. "Haku seems to trust you on some level, but I don't. What proof do I have that you mean what you say? How do I know you're not just going to sell us out to the Mizukage?" Naruto nodded. He understood Zabuza's concerns. "I assure you, I have no intention of handing you over to an insane tyrant. As for meaning what I say, you'll just have to trust me. It's either taking a gamble with me, or with whoever Gato hired to kill you." Ino watched silently. Naruto had told the present members of his peerage about his plan. While she agreed it was a good idea, it was also a good idea to keep your guard up. Meanwhile Zabuza was watching Naruto for any hints of deception. Finding none, he sighed and hefted his blade over his shoulder. "Alright kid, you've got a deal," he finally said. Asuma took this opportunity to speak up. "Would someone like to explain what's going on?" Naruto turned to him. "Sorry, but I offered Zabuza and his accomplice a place with my family to get away from the hunters in exchange for becoming our allies against Gato." "Well, it would have been nice to know that beforehand," Asuma said, taking out a cigarette. The heterochromal redhead simply smirked a bit and lifted his hand, now to start the other team's task. On the back of his hand, the Gremory circle appeared and flashed a few times before disappearing. It was that moment that 12 individuals appeared around them. They were all wearing headbands, though crossed out. One stepped forward and said, "Well, looks like Gato was right about you, Zabuza. He sent us to watch you, and now that we've caught you off guard. Actually, I knew you were there, I just didn't care," Zabuza said in deadpan. Asuma took a puff of his cigarette. "Same." Ino and Mizore nodded as Naruto didn't even acknowledge them. The 12 ninja, got angry and charged. They had a sound strategy, 2 per opponent. They didn't last a minute. Naruto dodged a punch to his head and slammed his knee into one's gut, then used him as a shield to take the other's kick, before tossing his meat shield to the side and launching a straight punch into the other's jaw, knocking him clean out. Asuma just whipped out his trench knives and gave 2 clean slices, cutting his opponents down easily. Zabuza just swung his sword and bisected the 2 after him. Haku disappeared in a burst of speed and jabbed needles into the necks of the 2 near her. Mizore and Ino looked at each other and nodded. Then they jumped, letting the ones charging them run onto each other. Then they shot down and nailed all 4 of them with a kick to the back of their heads. Naruto shook his head as he saw their enemies get demolished. Gato should really stop skimping on the help, if he wasn't going to die that day. With the other group, Shikamaru and Choji watched as Moka and Kurumu ripped through the thugs. The 2 genin had just taken out quite a few themselves, but Moka and Kurumu were just destroying everything. Kurumu had sprouted 2 pairs of wings, a tail, and claws. She was flying around, slicing through anyone who had the misfortune of being in front of her. Then there was Moka. She was in the middle of the group, punching and kicking everything that got near her. Each and every move had to have been breaking bones. In reality, Kurumu had cast a widespread illusion, charm hybrid that affected all of their opponents. It not only made them slow and sluggish, it also made them distracted whenever they saw Moka's or her own beauty. They shook their heads as they returned to their WN fighting. A few minutes later, Gato's army was reduced to nothing. Moka walked around, looking for any not yet out of commission, while Kurumu flew around doing the same. Once they were done, they returned to where Shikamaru and Choji were. Mocha noticing the looks on their faces. What? Did we scare you? Kurumu, getting in on the teasing, pouted a bit. I'm not that scary, am I? They laughed as the two genin blushed a bit. Kurumu then stretched and said, okay. Let's head back, I'm kinda tired. What about Gato? Shikamaru asked. The tyrant was still locked up in his mansion. Mocha gave a low chuckle. Don't worry, he's been taken care of. Choji was too scared to ask any more. Inside Gato's mansion, Gato was cowering inside his office as his two bodyguards stood outside. What the hell happened? 1 second everything is going fine, then my men are getting slaughtered like animals. Meanwhile, outside the office, Gato's bodyguards were thinking about getting the fuck out, when they heard a noise. Who's there? One of them said, while they both drew their swords. Come on out now, don't make us come and get you. Despite their tough facade, they were shaking like leaves. They then heard it, soft footsteps on the floor. They watched the hallway for whoever was walking toward them. But they nearly died of relief when they saw that it was just a cat. One of them sighed as he put his sword away. Man, I nearly shit my pants. The other gave a nervous laugh. Me too. But how'd a cat get in here? They both looked back at it. A black cat watching them with glowing yellow eyes. Before it seemed to smirk and was enveloped in pink smoke. Gato heard his guards talking. Who the hell let a cat inside? But that was cut off when he heard them start panicking. Then there was a sound like a cannon shot, and the sound of bodies hitting the floor. Gato watched the door as he heard footsteps drawing closer. When the door opened, he saw a total cosplay hottie. A short white black dress that conformed to her bust and body, thigh-high heeled boots, long strips of cloth hanging from the long sleeves. She had long purple hair, curling at the end, with two cat ears with white tips on her head, and enchanting yellow eyes. She smirked at him and said, "You must be Gato. You're gonna die." It was then that he realized that she was the one who killed his bodyguards. Wait. If you let me go, I can give you anything you want. Money, power. She just gained a malicious smile and said, "Nope. Prepare to die." She then put a finger up to the side of her head and moved it in the crazy motion. Pumpkin, pumpkin pum pumpkin. Halloween cannon. 3. Tazuna and Tsunami's house. Naruto watched as an orange beam shot up into the sky. He shook his head at the crazy cat's flashiness. Blare. A few days later, Naruto stood with everyone else at the end of the completed bridge, Blair in cat form on his head, now with a witch hat on her head. Tazuna walked up to them and said, "I can't thank you enough for your help. Without you all, we would have been doomed." Ino chuckled embarrassed. It was nothing. Naruto gave them a smile. "We just did what was right. There's no reason to thank us." Tsunami shook her head with a smile. "Be that as it may, we'll all be eternally grateful." Inari went up to Naruto. "I just wanted to say, thanks, for getting me out of my funk." Naruto chuckled and ruffled his hair. "No problem. Just remember to take care of your mom for me, okay?" Inari nodded with a few tears in his eyes. Naruto then turned to Zabuza and Haku. "So, are you two ready to go?" Haku nodded with a smile while Zabuza looked to the ground. "I have something to say." "I'm not going. I'm gonna head back to Kiri and join the rebellion, but I want you to take Haku." Haku's eyes shot wide open and she turned to look Zabuza in the eye. "What do you mean, Zabuza-sama? Did I do something wrong?" Zabuza shook his head. "Of course not, Haku. But I want you to be happy. I'm not meant for this, but you are. So is my final order. No, as your father, I want you to go with the brat." Haku started crying as she held onto Zabuza. He took a second to respond with a hug. After Haku had calmed down, they shared a tearful goodbye and Zabuza jumped off toward Kiri. After everyone had said their goodbyes, Naruto, Haku, Mocha, Kurumu, and Yakumo returned to the underworld and Team 10 left for Konoha. Tazuna turned and took a good look at the bridge. Now what to name it? Tsunami thought for a minute before a name came to her. How about the Underworld Maelstrom Bridge? Everyone present thought about it, and agreed that it was a cool name, so they all agreed on it. But only Tsunami knew the true significance of the name, paying respect to the people who helped them. Konoha, a few days later. Asuma had just finished reporting the mission to Minato, as well as Kushina, who was there to talk to Minato, including everything about Naruto and his companions. Shikamaru added in what happened to Gato's army. Minato dismissed the team and turned to his wife, so Naruto was in the nations. Kushina nodded. Even though she desperately wanted to see her baby again, She knew that he probably wouldn't want to see them. She then turned her thoughts to the mission report. Sounds like Naru-chan has gained quite a peerage. A vampire, a succubus, and a Yuki Onna, as well as Yakumo. Though if she's a member of his peerage, it stands to reason that Ino, Hinata, Sakura, and Tenten are as well. Minato nodded. Do you want to talk to them about him? He asked, knowing how broken up she was about this. Not to say he wasn't, he just knew that it hit Kushina far worse. To his surprise, she shook her head. No. Just leave them be. I think I need to go lie down for a bit. Minato sighed as she left. They had both been beating themselves up over the situation with Naruto. The kids had different ways of dealing with it. Nozomi was both excited and scared to see her brother. Excited because she had never really known him, but scared that he'd hate her or not want anything to do with her. Menma at first shared her attitude, before he started getting upset that he hadn't been born with devil powers. Sometimes Menma was too ambitious for his own good. With not much else to do, Minato turned his attention to setting up the Chunin exams.
That's all for now. If you want to see next part, then please like this video and subscribe my channel. Thank you.